Welcome, friends. It's almost midnight, and you've found your way to the PikeCast. Come along as we careen through the catalog of the most formative horror writer of our young adult days, Christopher Pike. From adult perspectives, we'll revisit these YA books our parents probably would never have let us read had they known what lie inside. We tackle one book per episode in a freewheeling and unbiased chat. So grab your battered paperback, pull the flashlight from the kitchen drawer, climb under your bed covers, and devour a good book with us. Greetings, fellow Pikers, and welcome to the PikeCast. I'm Cooper Beckett, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my lovely co-host.
Hello, I'm Cassie.
This is the final week of Sequel September, and we're digging into 1992's Chain Letter 2, The Ancient Evil, dissecting it in great detail, spoiling each and every plot twist, so consider yourself warned. If you're enjoying the PikeCast, please leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. So let's all say welcome back to our guest Piker this week, film distributor, critic, and festival programmer, Jenny Nulf, who, if I recall, stole Chain Letter 2 from the library and wants to atone for that.
I did. I actually read from my library book.
I love that we're starting this putting you on blast just a little bit.
No. When we first talked, Jenny and I told her, sometimes books are going to live a better life with you
It's true.
than they would at the library.
Yep, that's true.
And clearly, this book, which may have been discarded years ago, is still with us.
Honestly, I'm shocked this book was at a middle school library.
Well, there's also that.
I was rereading it and I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't remember some of the more adult things in this one, and I was like, whoa, I don't remember this.
Well, and it's because Chain Letter 1 was one of the teen books.
Mm-hmm.
And so Chain Letter 2 advanced it into the Pike realm and gave us a little bit more Pike. Not a lot, but a little.
I mean, I think it's very Pike. I think this one is very solidly Pike.
Yeah, I would agree.
So Jenny, you stole it. What brought that to you? What was it? Tell us about the conflict, the turmoil.
Oh my God. So first off, I'm mortified I read this in 7th grade. Reading it's been a while because I don't think I've reread it since high school. Maybe I tried to reread it in college and I just don't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really into Lois Duncan when I was in middle school and Fear Street. And Christopher Pike was this book specifically kind of called to me because it sounded like I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, now that I reread it, I'm like, oh, these books are a huge ripoff. Yeah, and I remember, they didn't have the first one, and I was like, whatever, I'll just read the second one.
Well, it's okay. It's basically a remake that adds a little supernatural to it.
I did remember trying to go back. I own the first one now, and I didn't like it as much. I was like, I tried to finish it, and I was like, I remember specifically trying to finish it and going, no, and then picking up the second one and reading it again.
I told my boyfriend before this episode because I was not excited to read this book, and I was like, I didn't like this part, like the series when I was little. I didn't like these 2 books. I hated them. And he's like, why? And I was like, I don't even really know. Like the first one was kind of boring. It was okay, but kind of boring. And we've covered it, so I was like, still not very impressed. And so I was not excited. And then I read this one, and I was like, oh shit, this is way better than I thought it was gonna be. Like I like this one way more than the first one. And I think I did the same thing as you, Jenny. I think I read this one first when I was younger and then tried to go back and was like, nah, I hate this. And I don't even think I finished the first one until we did the PikeCast.
Well, I mean, if you look at, so this book, as we were talking about earlier, it's the evolution between the point horror and the, quintessential Pike style, which is the garish colors on the cover, the Brian Kotsky art, that series of Pike books. And so I could totally see why you might pick this up first, because it looks like the other books you're reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I could never tell you why I stole it and didn't steal any of the other ones. I cannot.
Like, did you check it out and then realize you didn't read it all the way? Like, I'm always curious.
No, I read it all the way. I was obsessed with this book. I know why I stole it is because I just wanted it. And
Okay.
I couldn't find it at Barnes & Noble, and then I went to Half Price Books. It was not there. There's a few other Pike books there, but this was my first one. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to steal it.
This is mine now, library. Sorry.
You're going to live with me now.
It has lived with me since 7th grade. So, here you go.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's been with you longer than it's been with anybody else by now. So
yeah, that's true.
That makes it yours.
You're its longest relationship.
It's been with me maybe longer than it's existed. Like, okay, so it's 92.
Yeah.
And I stole it in 2002, 2003.
I mean, there you, yeah.
So I've had it longer than it was at a library. Yeah. I totally stole it, and I don't regret it.
Good. We are not here to shame.
Yeah, I mean, then you wouldn't have been here maybe either with us. So
that's true.
It worked out.
True. Had you not stolen it, we would not have benefited.
Shout out to the library. Thank you, libraries, for being
and now
so
our
wonderful.
Listeners are benefiting.
Yes.
So it's passing it on. It's joy. I never read this one when I was younger. I read the original Chain Letter because it was one of the point horrors that I was reading, and I didn't even know this one existed until it came in the giant box of Pike books that I was wonderfully donated because my mother purged like everything from my youth for some reason, and included my Pike books. So let's read the back of the book. Cassie, you have that handy?
I do. Yeah, hang on, let me turn the light on. Okay. The chain letter returned like a curse. Another chain letter has arrived. The group decides that it must be a joke. After all, the perpetrator of the original chain letter is dead and buried, the victim of a horrible illness. Yet the new chain letter is similar to the old ones. It is signed your caretaker and insists they perform certain deeds or else they will be hurt. Fran receives her letter first. She refuses to perform her deed and almost immediately she is killed. Then the group realizes that the letters are no joke and that the power that originally drove their friend to start the chain letters, the same power that killed him, is alive and hungry for more victims. Dun dun dun.
Way to just spoil Fran's death right there.
It does. She dies pretty, like, not at the very beginning.
No. Like, if she was like the Drew Barrymore in Scream death, like, if she died in the prologue,
that I would understand it.
You know, yeah. But it's weird.
No, she dies at like page 60. I just flipped to it.
Yeah, wow. It's very strange.
So the artwork is awesome.
It is.
It's the hand coming out of the mailbox, crushing the chain letter. I love this artwork. It's unique. It's not even your typical Brian Kotzky art. Like, there's no blonde cheerleader girl on the cover. It's just this demonic hand and the chain letter. I think that would be a great poster.
I do like it. I just wish there were more fingers. He's just only got 4 fingers.
Oh, but is that a hint towards a plot point?
Maybe.
Is it?
Because the girl cuts off her finger?
She does cut off her finger.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm okay with it. Maybe it's just that little stump is hidden behind the letter there. I'm going to go with that. Just because, look, I like it, but otherwise I was just like, who is this supposed to be? Like, are the caretakers creatures with only 4 fingers? Like, is that, they don't specify that. So why did he choose to do this? I was just, that's the only thing it took me out of it a little bit. I do like the art. I agree with you. But that I was like, why?
Well, it is interesting. Because we do get this huge new, like, we get mythology, but we don't get a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like, of the books that have ancient evils, which Pike likes to do, we usually get a lot more information on how they work.
Flashbacks.
This one we really don't. And that's kind of fascinating to me.
It feels like, because I don't know the timeline of what he wrote these books, but like this feels like a proto Remember Me almost. And then another one I could think of is like Monster a little bit, but I Remember Me had really complex like mythology that kind of like was layered, and I feel like this was like kind of like maybe if he wrote this
Remember Me
before,
was 89.
was the second one after
Monster
this?
was 92, so the same year as this.
I actually noticed that Master of Murder, the one that I was on, was like the next book after this one.
Yeah, it was in the hey, stay tuned for another Christopher Pike book coming your way. Let's see, when was
I guess all the
Me
Remember
2
Me
was 94.
Okay, yeah, because I feel like this has a lot of Remember Me 2 in it. Like a lot of the ideas of like the kind of like spiritual kind of like hell, heaven and hell, and like kind of like mythical spaces. A little bit of the sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a smorgasbord of Pike here in the middle.
Yeah, he loves his weird characters and like mythical beings and really kind, shining figures.
Yes. The Stranger.
Yeah.
Do the cover and the back of the book match what's inside? Do we think it's an accurate portrayal?
Yeah, considering she chopped her finger, I'll go with that then, yes.
Okay.
And I think the back is like
that was your only
accurate.
concern.
It
was the finger.
It looks like really dead flesh too, but I figured if that is, a dead person, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, if we want to get nitpicky, Allison is the only one in the fucking book that doesn't get a chain letter.
That's fair. Why is her name? Okay, now I have another look. I do like it though. I do like it. I think it's pretty accurate. It's a chain letter. It's a mailbox and a letter. Come on, like there. Yeah. What do they need? Like a chain around it to be any more literal? Come on.
I mean, it is a purple envelope, so it's got that part, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
you got
is
purple and red in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
There's a demonic essence, which I feel like demon, like Satanism, kind of does come into play in cultism. It's I think I remember when I was reading this in 7th grade that I felt like the cover didn't depict exactly what I had read, but now I'm like, it's more abstract.
Well, let's also talk about the fact that the return address is your caretaker, which is sweet.
Oh, that part has the library thing.
Yeah, it says your caretaker.
Oh, how sweet!
But Cassie, I'm only seeing 3 fingers now. Honestly,
I'm sorry.
Every time I've taken pictures of this book, it was in the middle of my big collage. I never noticed there were only 3 fingers on this thing.
Because I'm just like, that's his thumb down there. Wait a minute, something's not right?
Interesting. So we're meant to believe that is the ancient evil.
Yeah, I guess that's what the caretakers look like when they're not hijacking bodies of teenagers.
Yes.
It's Jane, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Is it Jane or Joan? There's 2 J names in this
book.
It
is Jane. Yeah. It is Jane / Sasha / what's her other name?
Charlene.
Charlene. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So this book is dedicated to Neil. Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
I did too. I was like, oh, it's real person.
Which is interesting. Because Neil was the ostensible bad guy in the first book. But now we know he wasn't.
And now we know he was a good guy. Yeah. Even though I never read the first book really full way through. He was a good guy.
Well, and it now makes a lot more sense how he was able to do the things that he did in the first book.
Because he had help,
Because I feel like that was very hand-wavy in that book, where he was able to somehow, while being sickly, carry someone through a window that was bigger than him. I don't know. So we get a little bit of an explanation there. But let's get into the Midnight Club. And I want to start with Fran because the book starts with Fran. And I love that we get... First of all, this book assumes we read the first book because it tells us very little about most of the characters, except for Allie and Tony. But Fran works at McDonald's.
Don't they all?
fucking page 1, we get a McDonald's reference. I love it so much. And although it would be fair to say she did not hate her job, it would also have been fair to say she was never going to work in a fast food joint again, which is true for multiple reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's about to be beheaded.
That is true.
Mainly.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yes. And that was the least intentional foreshadowing I think that Pike has ever done. So how do we feel about Fran? She doesn't have a whole lot to do in this book except be terrified and then vanish and then be beheaded.
Honestly, she's all right. I always felt really bad for her because no one likes her. It seems they always are like hand waving at her.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, she's just like, that girl that freaks out about everything, overreactor. And then she gets beheaded in a car accident. Very typical Pike.
Well, hey, Cassie, I don't really remember, but she was the one, I think, that was all in this shit is supernatural in the first book, right?
I don't remember. I remember her being very, like, annoying. I remember that from the first book, that I was annoyed by her. And so when I started this one, she was less annoying, and I was like, oh, good. And then she's dead.
And then dead.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
for a character who's so terrified, like really terrified about what's going to happen here. But I'm just going to go to this rock show out in the city. It's going to be cool. I'm terrified about anything that could happen, but I'm just going to go to this rock show in the city.
And she goes alone, which is also really
by
strange.
herself.
Like, if they had explained that, like, maybe that other, like, the dead girl, Charlene, Sasha, whatever, had met her and they had become friends, and she, like, I don't know, had some involvement, I would have found that more plausible. But that did bother me because I was like, first of all, she seems like more the type to stay home. Why is she going out to a party or like concert by herself with nobody?
None of your friends?
Yeah, and driving unsafely. It's just, and then they don't explain anything really about how that actually happens. And I'm just, okay, I guess we just needed somebody to die at this point.
They kind of try to explain how it happens in the end, but it doesn't.
Sasha was her co-pilot.
It doesn't make sense. How did her head get decapitated?
Yeah, she was in the car with her.
It says so at the end that Allison assumes she was in the car with her. I think it's Allison assuming.
Oh, did she? It wasn't official?
I'm not sure it's official, actually, because I think Allison just thinks it. She's like, oh, she had to have been at the car with her.
Gotcha.
And it's like, okay.
She was thinking that, like, she I don't know. For some reason, I thought that Allison was thinking that the girl had, like, mind powers and, like, commanded that happened. So she drove her off the road, like, with her mind. And I was like, why didn't she just drive you all to kill yourselves then? I don't understand. Like,
well, that's a good question. And I feel like that gets at the heart of my issues with this book. The powers that these caretakers have make no sense and don't explain why they're doing what they're doing.
Oh, it's all super vague. It's not really, it feels like he wrote this in a day, probably like he did the Master of Murder.
Yeah.
He's like that. They're writing it in one single day, and then
knock this shit out
in one sitting, and then he just gets up and he cracks his knuckles. He's like, "Done. Send it in."
Hit send.
And then the editor was just like, "I don't even know where to begin."
Chris, do you want to look at this again? No,
like,
fuck it.
On to the next one. I've got
we'll do it live.
Murder. We got more important things to do. I got to write about a writer.
I got to write about a writer specifically that writes the way I just did.
And remember how we were like, maybe he was mad at his editors and stuff about this guy's complaints. Maybe it was because of this book.
They were like, we need a sequel to the Chain Letter ASAP. And he was like, God damn it.
And then he turns this in. They're like, this is not what that was.
This is not what we expected, honestly.
They're like, well, this took a turn.
They look at the cover and they look at Brian Kotsky. They're like, hang on, why does it only have 4 fingers?
And Brian just shrugs. Like, I don't know. That's what he said. It's a monster. It's a monster.
It's like a demon thingy.
But we like it.
Oh, yeah, we do. It's fine. But it is weird.
It is.
Let's move on to Allison, our returning heroine from the first one, whose beauty was unusual. Her features at odds with one another, but in a way that somehow brought them together into a whole that was greater than its parts. Her big eyes and her wide mouth were classics. The rest of her, though, her button nose and thick eyebrows, was supposed to be out of style. That was what Cosmopolitan would say.
Why does Tony care about what Cosmopolitan says? This is like, that like sent me. I was like, what is he? What?
Here's one of the problems. I've spent a lot of time in my own writing trying to give points of view, like clear points of view. And so I notice it a lot more when there are not clear points of view. And there's a lot of that shit in this book where just for one sentence in the middle of a paragraph, suddenly it's Tony's point of view. But for the rest of it, it's Allison's. And then it's omniscient, just because.
Yeah, this book is, you really have to be paying attention to know who you're reading about. Like, it's Allison and Tony in theory flipping between chapters, but then there's that Eric one and the Fran singular one. But the points of view is like all over the place, especially at the end where it's like a hot mess.
I'll say one thing for George R.R. Martin. Putting the character's name right at the start of the chapter. Mwah.
It's a smart move. It knows you know exactly what's going on.
It's like, okay, I'm reading a Catelyn chapter. Yeah, okay. This first of all, I hate these two. Allie and Tony.
Oh, the ones that, I'm sorry, I had this, my favorite quote maybe ever. The ones that were each responsible for their mutual lack of virginity.
Wow, that is the worst possible. How did I not get that quote? What a
read
terrible
that like 5 times, and I was like, "Does it mean that they're virgins or not?" And then I read the next sentence, and I was like, "Okay, it definitely means they're
mutual lack of." Well, it goes right along with this sentence I'm about to read. At the time the second wave of chain letters began, Tony Hunt and Allison Parker were trying to decide whether to make love or never speak to each other again.
Make love just makes me feel so icky.
I know, me too.
I don't like that.
I always have that issue in breakups. It's classic problem.
Should we make love, or is this just it? Is this just the end right here?
I mean, this book just gets in it. It's like, oh,
it does.
It gets into it pretty fast.
So Allison is, first of all, Allison wanted to be an actress. Now you tell me if that's important at all in this book.
She can't act. The only time it ever comes up is when she's pointing out her own inability to fucking act. Like, girl, get a different dream. That's
but
not gonna work.
No, not only an actress. She wants to be a famous actress.
Adored, yeah.
She wants admirers.
Is this in the first book at all?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I was like, that would be a strange pivot.
Well, it's kind of a thing that comes up a lot in especially early Pike, where there's a girl who wants to go to California to make it big as an actress. It just happens a lot.
It does, except this time she's running away from California.
Yeah, she's going to NYU.
In New York. Yeah.
And Tony has this great observation. It took a modern jet 5 hours to get to New York. For Tony, that was an awful long way, you ready, to have his girl fly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wrote that.
Are we talking about too. Tony yet? Because I fucking hate Tony. And
let's just combine them because they're terrible together.
Awful people. They don't belong together.
No,
honestly.
They don't belong with anyone. They belong gone somewhere else.
No, they don't even belong with each other.
No, I was just waiting for him to die, man. I was so upset by the end of this book. I was like, really? Of everybody? You killed Fran, but you don't kill Tony? I was so upset.
We do get... Well, Kip basically took over the Neil role of the nice guy, but unlike Neil, he doesn't become more interesting. He's just that.
He's just nice. Murdered.
Yeah. And his poor sister's left without him. That makes me so sad.
Yeah, his sister that the book takes effort to introduce.
Yeah.
Because that's his whole chain letter thing is he's supposed to murder her. But also it's another extremely young sister for a high schooler to have.
Yeah.
Which
7 years old.
He's 7 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, my brothers and I have a huge age gap, but that's not common. It's insane how common it is in a Pike novel.
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time. Yeah. And they're always preternaturally smart, too.
Oh, yeah.
In
I
fact,
think
here, she was 7 years old and every bit as smart as her brother. This is
Who's going
Leslie
to
we're talking
MIT?
about. Yes.
Yeah, so
So
that's,
just
come
then,
on.
Leslie appeared in the living room. She didn't have her brother's ears, but she had his nose. She could best be described as charming rather than pretty. She's 7.
That's rude, right? Like,
Her fair hair was the same shade as Kip's, and they had similar mannerisms, the most noticeable being the tendency to talk with their hands when they were excited.
so much introduction for a character that literally never shows up again.
Yeah, nothing. Like, not even oh my God, Kip's dead, I'm so sad. Like, that would have been a point. So Tony falls into the thing I hate most about, YA fiction in general. It's this desperate, thirsty love that turns to desperate, thirsty hate very quickly. And I just find it obnoxious. And I fully admit that part of it is my different philosophy on love and relationships from most people. But still, this is appalling
yeah.
how quickly he turns on a dime here.
He doesn't even really turn. Like, in the beginning, he's
No,
that
that's
way.
true.
Like,
Yeah.
he's controlling, he's awful, he's manipulative. He's trying to, like, literally keeping her from achieving stuff and doing something that she wants to do. And he's just like, nah, if you really loved me, you wouldn't be leaving. Like, hello, like, you have many years of life. She can go do something and then come back later, or you can go there. Like, what are you doing?
Also,
I
how
was
did this
so mad.
fuckhead get accepted to Harvard?
How did he
Oh,
do
it was on a football scholarship, which kind of makes sense because
That
their
actually-
football
yeah,
team is
that's fair.
really shitty. And if he is any good, I can see them trying to get him.
Okay,
Why
that's
would
fair.
he turn it down though? Like, why? It doesn't make like.
Yeah,
and
who
I get,
turns Harvard down?
Yeah,
and then
that
we'll
was
go
a
on to
really dumb mistake.
Well, they explain that it's just like back and stuff too. So he's like, oh, I don't want to go super hard with sports or whatever, babe. Like, come on. So because you don't want to, you can't do something, like you're holding her back. Like, if you're gonna choose to go do something on your own, go do it. Let her go. Like, I was so mad the whole book, and then he just gets worse, and he starts calling her a slut and a whore, and I was like,
Oh my God.
ripping the pages out of my book. I wasn't really, but I was like,
No, I'm right there with you.
I was like, somebody kill him, fucking
I
kill
was
him right now.
infuriated by this character.
And in the end, they're like, oh, we love each other. Ugh,
Oh, that's how they beat the caretaker,
Yeah,
though.
with
oh my
love.
God, I want to fucking puke, dude.
But
That's
they
so
never love
stupid.
each other. Which
No,
is,
they don't. Not at all.
for this being, for me, not even reading the first book and this being my first Pike and me going, yeah, I want like 1,000 more of these. I'm kind of appalled. I don't know what I was like doing in 7th grade that I thought that this was like
Well, it is smutty.
It is. It does
is
have some
so
sexy
smutty.
stuff. And it's got like an evil, cool girl, which for me, when I was like 12, I was like, whoa, like girls can do cool, evil, deadly shit. Like, that's really cool. Like, I loved that. So, yeah.
I wanted red hair for a very long time, and I'm wondering if it came from this.
Same, dude. Like,
I'm curious.
All dressed in black, standing next to a car, just like giving somebody an evil death glare with your cool red hair. Like, that was
and
like,
your bright green eyes.
Yes. And I was like, why, where did this come from in me that I wanted this? Like,
and the answer is Whisper of
this
Death.
is it. Yeah.
She's 10,000% like a Pike girl. Like,
oh yeah,
to a T described. And she
sister.
even has an S name, which all of my Pike girls have S names that I love. I've noticed this, like Shari from Remember Me. Like, yeah, all the S names. I pick it up. I was like, oh yeah, she's the cool one. She's the evil one.
Well, let's talk about Sasha. I mean, there's going to be a lot more to go into when we actually deal with the villain part, but her hair was long and shiny, an odd maroon, so deep red it was almost black. Her green eyes shone bright above her thick lips. He is really bad at describing mouths in pleasant ways.
Wide mouths and thick lips.
Why not plump?
Wide
Lips
mouth.
are plump, not thick.
Thick with 2 C's.
Yeah. or yeah, okay. Which was
It sounds like she just had Botox. I don't know.
Yeah. Her face was pale, but cute freckles played around her shapely nose and her innocent dimples.
What's a shapely nose? What kind of shape?
I have no idea.
I read that.
I always
and
assumed
I
a
stopped, and I was
shapely
like,
one meant like it was kind of button-y almost, but I guess he would say button if it was.
Button, yeah.
I figured
I feel like he
Maybe
described
it means
someone
big.
with a button nose in this book.
Maybe.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Shapely.
Shapely. It's
Maybe
weird.
it just means it has curves, the nose.
I mean, hope it's got curves. What a weird
It's got
name for a
slinky
video.
nose curves.
He's like, it's got, what a nostrily nose she had.
And here we go. This is from Tony. He had been so enchanted with her voice and face, he had hardly noticed her excellent figure, much fuller than Allison's.
Okay, he like just walked out of her house and maybe broke up with her. Unclear if he broke up with her. And he's like full on checking out this girl at the food court eating McDonald's. What a skeezball. He sucks.
Is. He's awful. Like, so, and from that, you get two things. First of all, the girl sounds really hot. Second of all, he's an asshole. Third, why are you comparing like your girlfriend to some random bitch in the mall? Like, and I'm saying that like as just somebody who would be like there with a dude, I'd be like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what's up here? What's going on? I'd just be staring at him from across the food thing. Like, you clearly just sat down next to this girl. You're watching her walk away like that, like a creep, dude. Like, what are you doing? You're so creepy. Oh, I hate it. I hate men.
Well, also, offers a massage.
Yeah. So Tony has accepted. He offered himself a massage. He said, if you ever need someone to practice on.
That is true. She gave the opening and he just went for it. He
dove in. Mr. Relationship, who is calling his girlfriend a whore for giving someone a kiss on the cheek, dove in. Now, I suppose we can give it the credit to Sasha's influence is corrupting Tony's mind. I suppose. But it's still infuriating.
You can assume that, but he also just was a dick to his girlfriend without her existing. Yeah. She didn't even exist yet. I guess the chain letter in theory is already in play, but I don't think it has reached his brain.
Okay, very, very true.
No, I don't think he's thinking with his brain at all in that food court.
Well, we also theoretically have Sasha meeting up with Fran, and we theoretically have Sasha going camping in the mountains with Joan. Did she?
Wait, when did this happen?
Well, Joan went camping in the mountains with a friend.
Oh, I thought
she was supposed to be Sasha?
Friends.
Well, I don't know. Sasha seems to have wormed her way into all these people's lives.
Oh, because she does recognize her. She calls her little worm.
Yeah.
So she does know who she is, and she's like, "Oh, you're here." Like, she recognizes her, and they don't really explain that, do they?
So I just assumed that that's what we're supposed to take away from this, is that Joan was camping with Sasha. So she was basically looking for the end of the group.
I thought she was sleeping
Tony's
with the guy at that time,
melted head fit the bill. I'm sorry, what did you say, Cassie?
I thought she was with Tony, like in bed and stuff with him at the same time as Joan was out, because they were trying to get a hold of Tony, but he was with the girl.
I'm also just assuming she's spectral.
Oh, so okay.
Oh,
so
like Neil was kind of.
So like she can jump in to the embalmed body of.
Oh, that would
Jane,
make sense.
Yeah,
because that's what she is. She's an embalmed body that is hosting the caretaker. So this caretaker could have been elsewhere as well.
It's so weird.
There's all this stuff here, and some of it adds up in interesting ways, and other stuff is just like, well, but what? And that's definitely a cornerstone of Pike's I just wrote this to finish it stories.
I feel like there could have been a trilogy. Like there could have been a third book after this that really went into like the caretakers and where they're from and like stuff like that.
Yeah,
and like
I want to know what's in the box.
Well, yeah, Brenda's in there, isn't she?
Is
technically? Well, yeah, because didn't Tony have that weird vision where she's in the box and they're talking and it's technically a dream, but also Neil hints Ghost Neil,
right?
Hints to Allison like, oh, when you're in the box, you can't get out of the box, and Brenda and Joan are both in the box because, well, I guess Joan
because
they
the
caretaker, but Brenda
right.
didn't. So Brenda is in theory in that box.
That's true.
So I thought what they meant with the box is like when you do those bad deeds, you finally get put into the box in the last page, right? So because they've got your soul now, so the soul gets put in the box. So her body's probably still there.
So Brenda's soul's in the box.
Well, but I don't know if that's necessarily true though, because she really only hurt herself, and they even like say that like he makes a point to say like because it's something that you do and you damage yourself and you can't like return from that, but like she's just missing a finger though, like she
Right, yeah, and they really go all in with the now she's forever disfigured, and it's like literally she's missing a finger.
Bitch is not
Like,
disfigured.
you put that hand in your pocket, you're no longer disfigured. That's really it. That's it.
And we've seen worse from like hot dog bun machines in these books. So
Yes,
I
that's
mean,
very true.
I'm just like in another book, somebody's in like half of his hand gets like ripped off, 2 fingers or something by like a hot dog bread machine. Like, and
it's weird.
So yeah, and even that, like, and he goes on like a downward spiral, and like I'm not gonna spoil it for all the other episodes. You can go back and listen to, but like I'm just saying, like they make it this huge thing, and it's because of that. And then for her, she's just like, I got drunk, cut off my finger, now I'm in a box.
There we go.
What the heck?
What person gets so drunk where cutting off a finger is like nothing? I was like thinking about that very heavily, and I was like, "There's no way." You have
with
to
a sharp knife too, because
like,
you know that knife was probably not serrated.
No, it was just like a kitchen, like a small little.
So, like, really, what you just need is you need a pinking shears, not a pinking shears, pruning shears. That's what you use for a finger.
How did she not scream loud enough to wake up her parents?
Yeah,
I mean, it's still gonna hurt. Like that's like the insanity. I'm like, there's no amount of alcohol that cutting through bone is gonna feel like nothing.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, let's talk about Brenda, because she has a great intro.
Oh, she does.
She had a red bow in her shiny blonde hair and ass-kissing black shorts that showed off her lithe figure. I don't even know what it means, but I love it.
Wait, did you say it's life figure?
Lithe, yeah, lithe
like
figure.
Okay.
Which usually means like wayfish, right?
Does that?
She's like thin, like
yeah. I mean, her body is her number one. That's made apparent when the finger is her thing.
Thin,
because
supple,
honestly,
and
that's
graceful.
That's like the nicest one.
Yeah.
Because before it's like burn your sister's arm, drown a puppy. It's like, oh, cut off your finger.
I know.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
It's like they're really weird, and they try to clarify it by saying like she loves herself more than anything. Like, okay, and
your finger?
I mean, for
like,
fuck's sake, at least make her cut off her nose.
Right, like cut your turn yourself into like what is his name? Scar from Mufasa. Well, not
yeah, like cut out your eye.
Yeah, Scar from Mufasa.
Scar from Mufasa. No, but you know what I mean? Like something that so that like even when she hides her hand, you can still do anything. You can be an actress. You could be a model.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's just so strange of a thing to try to point out like, well, it's because she loves herself and her beauty so much, so we cut off one of her fingers. Like, okay, cool, weird punishment, dude, but all right. The other person had to literally like burn his sister. The girl had to murder her dog, which is horrifying. Like, what the? I would have died too. I'd be like, well, this is it for me, bud.
Yeah, I guess game over.
Yeah, but yeah, cool. Cut off your finger. That's the easiest of them all. Like, I'm sorry, but
apparently so easy that you can do it when you just get drunk and not even feel it. Like, wow.
Also, she apparently drank an entire bottle of whiskey.
She's a bad bitch, is what she is.
And she's still conscious, like, fully. Yeah. I mean, maybe not completely fully, but she's, like, awake and coherent enough to talk.
Well, now, Brenda, I will give this to her. She is the only person who has any sense when it comes to relationships. Because she has this here, so what? I love Kip. That doesn't mean I let him run my life. Don't get me wrong. I like Tony. He's a babe, and he's got manners. He doesn't.
He really doesn't.
He does not have a single manner.
We're going to be in love dozens of times before it's all over. Thank you, Brenda, for inserting some sense into the chaos.
Brenda's also foreshadowing how Kip feels about her, where he's like, she doesn't love me anymore, whine, whine, whine. And I'm just like...
That's true.
Okay. I mean, maybe she doesn't, but...
Well, yeah, Kip is...
Kip is
the
sad.
exchange, though, is so great. We didn't have sex. Why not? Kip asked. We don't have sex every time we get together. I'm sure you and Brenda don't either. Yeah, but we have an excuse. What's that? Tony asked. Brenda isn't attracted to me. Wah, wah, wah.
Wow, it's so mean.
Poor Kip.
It's so self-hating. Like, Kip
later he has a she doesn't
bad.
like me or something also.
Oh yeah, he's like a whiny little bitch. He's like, this is why Brenda wants to break up with him.
Yes.
Honestly.
It is. It really is. Yeah. I will say, I wish he had lived instead of Tony, but he also sucks, but just not as bad. In a more sad boy way than like toxic masculinity kind of way.
I mean, honestly, Neil
he's
sounds
the
the best.
insidious masculinity, though.
That's true.
It's not toxic in that way. It's toxic in a whole different way, like a few stages removed from incel then. But he is still dating her.
Yeah,
she just doesn't like him.
I mean, he's not like, oh yeah, she's a fucking whore. She doesn't put out for me, but she's putting out for other people. He's just like, yeah, she doesn't like me. She's not into it. We're still together though. Lucky me.
Anyway, luckily my sister's smart.
Yeah, like I got some stuff to do before MIT in the fall. So like he knows. That's why I think I like him, because he's like, all right, like this, I've got the best of what I'm gonna do here. Obviously, this isn't gonna last.
I can't wait till I never have to see any of you ever again.
Yeah.
I actually do kind of appreciate that he immediately is like with Tony. He's like, yeah, fuck Allison. And he's like, wait, hold on, back up. He's like, actually, no, Allison is great. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're an idiot.
He's like, hold on, back up. I was just like rooting for you and being your friend, but now I realize that I'm in the wrong.
Now we are on to Joan Zachlinski.
Oh God, she has a last name.
Who we all thought was the queer reading character last time, because she's very singular, very well-defined herself. Unfortunately, she's not so much in this book.
No,
I mean, she was off backpacking with that girl. Yeah, like maybe she is totally.
So like, I totally just went with that. Like, oh, backpacking with a friend, eh? Yeah.
A girl in the mountains? I see how it is. Cottage coring in the 90s.
Yeah.
How weird, too, then, because if that was her, and then she comes back with her and was like, wow, I had this great time. And then she goes to that guy's house and knows that, like, she's got this finger and a gun in a bag and that shit's finally going down. And she gives it to him. And then she sees the lady walk out and she's like, oh, shit, what are you doing here? Like, what the? You were just in the mountains with me. Oh, no. Like, that must be mind-blowing for her, and we never get to revisit Joan. Like, it sucks.
It really
Joan's
does.
Just trashed. She's like, Allison hates her because apparently she liked Tony.
Yeah.
But I guess she didn't have a chance because Tony was in love with Allison, so I don't understand the hate.
Well, here we go. Tony had gone out a few times with Joan before he had started to date Allison. Joan had never forgiven Joan had never forgiven her for stealing the guy she considered to be her boyfriend. It was all absurd. Tony said he hadn't even made out with Joan.
Which is a lie.
But then later,
it's a total lie.
Yeah,
he had once come within a finger's inch, which is weird, of having sex with her. Sometimes when things were rough with Allison, he fantasized about calling Joan again and continuing their affair, but he never did. Joan was so gorgeously gross, she intimidated him.
I do love that, though. I do love gorgeously gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she's so pretty, it almost is disgusting. You're like, I can't even look at that. It's too much.
But I do think the greatest sin this book makes is not having Joan be a more interesting character, because she was probably the most interesting character in the first book.
Really? Interesting.
Just because she was so unique. Like, she didn't feel, she felt like she came out of a whole different series, not even book, like out of nowhere. Yeah.
And then she's just given the job of filling a gun with
basically blank. If you dropped Courtney Love into the Hunger Games. Now that's a weird combination. I don't know that I thought that one through. What if you dropped Courtney Love into the Babysitters Club?
I mean,
as another babysitter, not as an adult.
Those poor kids.
Yeah.
Those poor kids.
Okay, we got some new characters. Hey, Eric Valance.
Oh yeah, amateur sleuth.
Amateur sleuth. Okay, I have tell me if I'm wrong here, but he's totally deaf in his right ear and has only 50% normal hearing in his left. Is there any importance to that fact other than everyone just being a total dick to him?
No, I don't think so.
I think there's one time where he meets Allison and he's like, "What?" And then she's just like, "He must not be a good detective." And that whole scene is very messy, and I want to go back to that later because
Okay.
I caught some inconsistencies.
Oh. But we also
Uh,
have Joan saying, "Can't you hear?" We have like it just keeps coming up that he can't hear people, but it's not important, and it's just flogging a disability here, and it seems so shitty.
it is like just mean spirited because it doesn't even come back into importance in the final scene.
Yeah.
Where maybe it could have, but
Yeah,
I'm
like
a bit
maybe
confused.
Sasha can do auditory control and Eric couldn't hear her, so he couldn't be controlled. Look, I fixed it.
Yeah, I just doesn't like it doesn't add up that he would
Yeah.
have this disability and then it just mean nothing.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
I mean to be fair, cool for writing a character like that into your book then, but like it's brought up way too many times and people
Yeah.
are just way too mean to him.
And that's the thing. If it was just brought up in positive ways or just mentioned, that's fine. That's representation. I love that. But if everyone's just mean about it, that's like it's like drawing a circle around it and pointing and laughing.
I think
Yeah,
though
it's mean.
it's important to note that he doesn't really seem to give a shit. He's just like
Well,
he
that's true.
literally like ignores it when they're being dicks to him, and he just like looks at them and he's like, "Can you repeat it? Can you repeat what you were saying?" Which I thought that made me think that maybe Pike has somebody in his life who he knows
Yeah.
that maybe he wanted to give a nod to or include for some reason because of like how I don't even want to say it. Like it was just really he
It
had
was
such a
very
strong
specific.
yeah, like he had such a strong backbone like in that part of his character. Like it was random that they put that in there. I don't necessarily think that every character has to have a reason for that. Especially like I know that this wouldn't be like an own voices type thing where, you know, Pike
Right.
has hearing any kind of like things with that, but I think it is random that this is a supernatural book and that there was no supernatural
Yeah.
inclusion of that. Like that it seemed because it kept hinting at it and it kept making it seem like it would come back to the story. And then I was wondering at the end, I was like, did I just miss where this was relevant? Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
And then
it's literally not.
yeah, but I mean again, I did like how he like responded and how he like didn't even give them like the
Sure.
time
Yeah.
of day with like being rude back or anything. He was just like I'm gonna just stare at you and just respond and like you can just stew in your own shittiness. Like and that's how I respond sometimes to things. Like when people say rude things to me, I'll just like stare and just respond like straight, no tone. And I'm just like, this is it. Like
Yeah.
be shitty.
And Eric's actually an interesting character, and he's one of the only ones in this book that's not immediately like, geez, this person's awful.
He actually is maybe one of the nicer Pike characters. He
Yeah.
literally doesn't think of Allison ever as more than just a nice person. He does
Yeah, it
have
wasn't
some
suddenly, now I want to have sex with you.
yeah, that never comes up in his mind. He's just
Right.
like, I like her. She's really nice. I just want to do nice things for her. And it's like, wow, she's not nice. She's but that's really generous of you. And he's just like helping these people out. He's not even going to the police. He literally just like sits there and listens and gets involved in some chaos that he doesn't even believe in.
Right. But he still follows it through. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's
all the
just
way
like
to the end. He's on board.
a shockingly all around good guy.
I feel like he felt like one of Pike's typical cop characters, and it kept throwing me off because I kept thinking he was cop, and then they would like
Yeah.
really hammer it home again that he is not a cop, and I was like,
That
oh
it's
right,
just
right.
his uncle. He's
Yeah.
21 years old actually
Yeah,
and
and
can't
then-
hear.
Yeah, and then that was another thing too, is because like I feel like at 21 years old, if you're really this into like cops and the police force and everything, like why is your first instinct if he had been having naughty thoughts about the girl, I would have understand it more from a Pike book perspective. But like as it stands, he has no reason to be risking everything. Like he's now an accomplice. Like he's involved in everything they're doing.
Oh,
like,
that's very true.
so he's risking his own freedom and his own like future and any kind of connection to being like anything for what? Like not even for the chance of having this girl. Like, it's just
No, he's not interested in that because he knows that she loves Tony. Like, he's totally respectable.
It's just so strange though. Like, it makes him like such a filler character, I think. Like, I would have liked him. He doesn't even argue. Like, there's no point where he's just like, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be getting into this shit. Like, he has no self-preservation, and that part was like not believable to me because I was like, how are you not worried about yourself or your own like life from this at all? Like,
the only time he argues is when Allison freaks the hell out at Mr. Is it Cameron's their last name? House?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
he's
right.
like, you're being rude.
And that's fair, because he's so nice.
Calm the
he's
fuck
like,
down about this girl who died.
He's like, there's this heartbroken man in here. You're being crazy and mean. And she's like, but she's alive. He's like, now's not the time. Shut up.
You should just like ask me to step outside. Don't tell this in front of the dad.
She's had a really hard day. I'm so sorry, sir.
Yeah. I do like that he the way he gets into the mystery, though, is that he knows that an emerald couldn't have survived a fire.
That is random Pike shit again. That is just random. It's so weird and random. I love it, but it's so weird and random.
Yeah, it is.
Is it true? Did you look it up?
I didn't. I'm just accepting it as true.
Me too. And this is a fact that I'm just going to think is true forever now because of this. Maybe I'll solve the mystery.
Move on to Chris. And honestly, I don't remember. Oh. Chris is also the stranger.
Oh, he's like Neil, right?
Yeah, I think he's Neil.
Okay. He's a ghost Neil.
But why is he not just Neil?
Because no one recognizes him.
I guess.
Well, Neil's body's still in the desert too.
Yeah, that's not written very well. I think it's very confusing. It's you're obviously, because she's like, this guy, he looked so familiar. I had no idea why. And I'm like, literally 5 pages ago, you just said Neil had green eyes, and this ghost guy has green eyes.
Right.
So there it is.
And we also have such like on the nose ambiguous dialogue. Where are you from? The question amused him. He glanced back at the water. Not so far from here, if you know how to fly. She laughed. So you're Peter Pan? He nodded, softly laughing. If you like. Then we got, I'm a farmer. Really? What do you grow? Seeds.
Oh my God, that was like, what the hell's going on here? He's like in the middle of LA, and I'm just like, please spare me with this like really weird
Well, all I hear there is Dwight saying, I'm going to plant my seed in you.
Gross.
Kind of.
Yeah. Which was the one where we had Pan growing things in like a prison cell with his parents?
Oh, shit.
I don't remember which one was.
I don't remember which book that was either.
That gave me vibes of this, though.
We've read a lot of books.
These Pike books are wild, aren't they? I'm so glad we started this.
and as we've read so many, as we've gone through a year of this, they really are just all blending together.
Yeah, it's like one big just universe, and it's hard to tell where one starts and the other ends. Like it's all just one big Frankenstein of thriller, horror, sci-fi, lizard people, and vampires in space.
Vampires on Mars.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So are we to assume we are supposed to assume that Chris and the stranger are the same person, right?
I think so. Is the stranger's the one who comes at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're the same.
And are we also supposed to assume that the stranger, like the caretaker, is a line of beings?
I don't know.
I think he is. My thought on that is that he is a soul that the caretaker, or because it's a satanic cult and trying to like, and it sounds like it's basically hell that Tony and Allison keep slipping into.
Right.
Very lit hell because it's like red and purple and
with hard rock or heavy metal music playing.
Yeah, I know. Sounds like
it sounds like what the parents in the 80s were afraid of.
It's like the concert Fran left when
it is. It's all just that. She went to that concert.
I mean, it's like legit the colors of the cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I assume that he's a soul that they couldn't take, and therefore he wanders freely. Because it does sound like a character. I feel like he's done that before in another book.
Yeah, he has.
Where he has like ghostly beings just chilling. I think in Remember Me, he actually does that.
And,
right. Literally, the lead character's a ghost.
Yeah. And the Road to Nowhere that we just read has very similar stuff there. Okay, our last character is Carol Whiting, who is the wife of James Whiting, the 33-year-old record store owner / corpse that
Very
started
interesting
this whole
job.
thing in motion.
Yeah, I do like how he digs into the corpse in this one. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's actually figure out who this person was. Because in the first book, we did not.
I mean, I absolutely love that. I think Carol Whiting is such a poorly written character. These people show up out of nowhere, say we moved your husband's body, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry. Jim
Oh
was
yeah.
dead when you and your friends ran over his body. Don't worry about it."
And she's like, LOL, it's fine.
Yeah,
Don't.
and
Okay.
then tells this long story about how her husband who died was a coke addict who met a crazy Satan girl. I mean, it's like she's delivering it like a monologue, like she has no idea that this has any importance whatsoever.
She's like, oh yeah, there was this one bitch that like I hated
Yeah.
that like stole my husband from me, which as the reader we know are like, oh, we know who that bitch is.
Yes, we do.
And then she's like, yeah, it's so strange. She listens to bands like, oh my God, this is such like, what is
Oh
it,
yeah.
Black Sex or something?
He said she was a pretty girl who regularly came into the store and was always asking him to order CDs of bands he'd never heard of. Groups like Dried Blood and Black Sex. Real sicko groups.
That I don't know if you ever read the short story he has in the anthology 13.
Not yet, no.
Literally everything in this book reminds me of that short story. There's a car crash, like they're listening to a band I'm pretty sure is called Dried Blood or something like that. It is very similar. Oh, it's called Black Walker.
Black
That's the band that
Walker,
they're
okay.
listening to. It's like it's the same shit where he's like, "Oh yeah, punk music is really scary, very bad." It's like super like satanic panic stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, like this entire scene where we learn about Charlene is so satanic panic. Like she was digging in her garden and found a green trash bag filled with the remains of desecrated animals. There were dogs and cats and even a skunk, and all of them had been beheaded and their fur shaved with strange symbols. So here's my question. Charlene is a user. It's like Sasha is a user. She's using Tony to do the things she can't, right? But this was when she was alive and wanted to be elevated to a full-fledged witch, according to this.
But I guess she's not.
But
I guess
who was doing the stuff? Was she killing animals and burying them in this very suburban white bread couple's backyard? Or was she getting him to do it? And was he actually in the cult? I have no idea. This is so convoluted.
Okay. First, I'm gonna argue with you about Carol, but for that, I think because they said that he had to love her before, so I think he had to give up like some sort of his soul or something because she was in the cult. So
Okay.
if she had him doing these gross things to like the animals and stuff for her, then that was probably to prove his like loyalty or love to her. And once that happened, then she could sacrifice him and then kill herself to become immortal. And then, so going back to what you said about Carol too, I disagree with you because I think it's completely reasonable how she acted because keep in mind that this was an entire year ago for her. And
That's
before,
true.
like that, her husband died and disappeared. And before that, even, she had been dealing with this bullshit with him for a while. Like, he had
that's
been
true.
distant. He had been doing drugs. He had been like stealing money. He made their entire family, they had 2 kids. He made the entire family bankrupt, like spent all their money on drugs and this other girl. He was having an affair. He was running all of their lives into the ground. So yeah, when he ends up dead, she's probably like, this sucks and I'm sad, but also like, that good, like I can I can move on with my life now. And then not only that, when they come back and finally give her answer, she's like, good, I just wanted closure, like I don't need to call the cops, like thank you for telling me, like you guys are just a bunch of kids, he was a shitbag. I feel like her response is totally normal.
See, I totally agree with what you're saying, but I would say that would make her even less likely to want to talk to these two.
But if they're saying that they are having trouble because they're like, we're a couple scared kids and we need help. Like this cult is fucking with us. So she's like, here's all the information I have and can give you. I don't know anything else. Like, thank you for giving me closure. Goodbye. Like,
Okay.
and she doesn't go back into their lives again. So from her perspective, she's like, she doesn't want the cult to come back to her, but she's also like, if I can do something to help, like give you this information, she's not shitty like her husband. She's not trying to get like tied up with them, but she's not going to turn these 2 kids away, like, and be like scared kids. Like, she's got her own 2 kids. Like, they're young, but still, I feel like it's a normal, a regular mom, lady, wife who's dealt with a shitty husband who spent all their money and funds and college funds on cocaine. Like,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, she's like, can you take me to his body? And they're like, no. She's like, all right, fair. I already, like, I wrote him off a year ago anyway. It's too bad. I don't think, like, I know you said she's kind of like robotic or whatever, but I just feel like, no, that makes sense. Like, I'd be like, all right, yeah.
I mean, actually, to even further on your point, it's interesting because this character usually exists in a lot of horror movies. Like, actually, the one I'm thinking of is I Know What You Did Last Summer, both the book and the movie, where they go to someone's house and randomly start asking questions about a dead person.
The sister.
Yeah. And in the movie, I think it's the sister. In the book, I'm not sure if it's
no,
the
I don't
same.
know. I didn't read the book. I heard Becca told me it was terrible, so I didn't read the book.
I love the book.
I'm sorry. Becca hates it like with such a passion that I was like
a huge passion.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh man.
What's her thoughts on Chain Letter, the ripoff of what he did last summer?
Well, I can look. Hold on, let me.
Let's look at her rating. Because I don't specifically remember, but I like that book because I loved Lois Duncan's.
Becca gave Chain Letter 4.5 stars. Pike.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was like, this improved on the formula.
Yeah.
First off, I love that book. I think it's so fascinating how they do the villain, but or she writes the villain, but the characters, they always go to someone's house, they start like asking about the dead person that they murdered, and then for some reason that is beyond me, the person usually starts like saying, oh yeah, let me tell you everything about my life story. But this one, I will say, you're right, it does make sense that she would like be like, you know what, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you all about him.
And she does, like, she explains why too, because it's not like he just went missing and she was like heartbroken, like how they were imagining it too, which I'm sure absolves Allie of some of the guilt she was feeling, because she's like, he had a wife, he had kids, and then she's like, yeah, he spent all her money on cocaine and has been cheating on me with this like 20-year-old like little hussy, like who likes
that listens
sex,
to Dried Blood
music, blood. Yeah. Yes. Like, I don't know, like, so I don't know. I'm with her. I'm like, look, here's all the information I have on fucking cults, dude. Good luck. Goodbye. I really like her.
I'm so glad that asshole is dead.
Yeah, like, I hope she finds a new husband and they like live a happy life and her kids are not scarred from whatever weird shit that she dug up in that yard. Like, weird. Just so weird.
I defer. I concede.
Thank you. I don't argue super hard very often.
You don't.
When I
you
do,
don't. So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and dig into the plot more. So we'll be right back with more on the PikeCast. Wow, friends. Where else can you get this kind of programming than the PikeCast? Nowhere, that's where. But we're trying to keep the lights on here. If you like what you're hearing and want it to keep happening, jump over to our Patreon at thepikecast.com/Patreon and throw us a few bucks to join our private Discord server. Higher tiers get books, stickers, bookmarks, and even personalized shirts. That's thepikecast.com/Patreon.
Once, Osgood and Frost were the up-and-coming stars of the burgeoning paranormal investigation TV show craze before a hoax put an end to their friendship, partnership, and television careers. Now, over a decade later, Prudence Osgood is a barely functioning alcoholic ghost hunter for hire. Her yearning for mystery and adventure is reignited when she receives a cryptic, untraceable email. She can't resist embarking on an investigation that tugs threads, winding through a sinister series of disappearances, her former partner's family, and a night 20 years ago when a semi blew a yellow light and nearly killed her. Reviewers are calling Osgood Is Gone a masterfully vulnerable and relatable 21st century horror story, and a bourbon-soaked supernatural mystery with sparkling dialogue that sticks the landing on LGBT characters, and main character Prudence Osgood, as tortured as she is clever, broken in all the best ways, and a true heroine for our times. Buy it today at Osgood As Gone as a paperback, ebook, or audiobook narrated by me, JJ Ronvier.
Welcome back to the PikeCast. Now we're moving into Remember Me, which, as we always like to point out, is the plot discussion, which we've already done a lot of discussion about the plot, but now we're going to go a little deeper here. So Pike really works overtime, I think, to remind us that Neil was probably being controlled by someone other than just himself. Like, Neil had done a lot of amazing things back during the days of the chain letters. Some were almost supernatural. And even after it had been revealed that Neil was the caretaker, Tony had never been able to reconcile his friend with writing the letters. They had been so crafty, and Neil had always been so simple.
That sounds
what a
rude.
dick.
Yeah.
He's so mean.
What a
even
dick.
to his ex-best friend.
Yeah. And now so he just moved on from his ex-best friend to Kip, who's his new best friend.
Yeah, which he implied became his best friend when Neil was going psychotic in the last book.
So Neil went crazy, so he just slid on over. Hi, Kip. We're going to be best friends now.
The way you said hi, Kip, it reminded me of Goofy from a Goofy movie where he's like, hi, Max, and like, hi, son. I don't know why. Like, just that, like that one, it just sounded so... For a second, I just had this hard cut to like Goofy poking his head into Max's room with the vacuum cleaner and like power line cut out. And I was just like, wait.
Let's see. Okay, I've got so much. I don't know why I've saved so many of these quotes here. I think it's just for me to organize my thoughts about the plot. Because there is a lot of plot in this book. We move all over the place, back and forth.
I mean, there is. Like, I read this in a day, and I read it in like 3 hours, which is, about average for a Christopher Pike book. But like, this one, I feel like I just like moved mountains when reading it. I was like, oh, we're here now. Because I forgot how fast like the ending comes up on you.
Yeah, out of nowhere. Like, it really, and I read these as PDFs. So I only have a vague idea that I'm almost to the end, where if I was, actually reading the physical book, I would know very clearly that I was very near the end. But yeah, this came out of nowhere.
Yeah, the last 30 pages are just like, oh, we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I found it very interesting that for a moment, Allie is driving toward Big Bear Lake, but then decides not to go to Big Bear Lake. Instead, she decides to go to Green Valley Lake. And that makes me wonder why we mentioned Big Bear Lake in the first place. From a pure economy of words standpoint.
Well,
why is she heading to Big Bear Lake?
First, it makes no sense. I will say my parents used to live there, so I'm pretty sure that's why I loved this book. Because I was like, wow. Because our passwords to like the Wi-Fi growing up was Big Bear Lake. And so I was just like, wow, that must have been like a big deal for me.
Yeah.
But personally, he wrote that in for me.
He did, just for you, because he knew you'd steal it.
Yeah.
He knew I'd steal a library book.
Yeah. Maybe that's why you stole it.
I think in
Maybe
theory,
that was the connection.
That might have been. Yeah. It could have been. It could
Sorry,
have been
you're actually trying to say something of value here, and I'm being a dick.
It's okay. Well, it says at the end that ended up being the place where Neil goes before he dies, if I am correct. And like, so I guess in theory, if she's driving to Big Bear Lake, it's supposed to look like she all of a sudden had a premonition to go somewhere else.
No, okay. But she's also not driving there. She's doing automatic driving. She's not.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't say, I'm going to drive to Big Bear Lake.
Because she says that she knew, like, because before he died, Tony takes Neil out to a cabin, and that's where he dies, like in the chair out there. And they don't talk about any of the chain letter stuff. Like, they just pretend like things are normal, and he has like a peaceful end. So he told her that, Tony did, and then she also mentions that he mentions it later, although she doesn't say specifically, but like he says where it is, so she knows in her head, even though she's not really thinking of it. And because like Neil is a kind, comforting like memory for her, I think subconsciously when she's like in distress, she just gets in the car and starts driving, because I feel like that's reasonable. Like sometimes you drive and you just end up somewhere and you're like, okay, like this is a familiar like area and place that I know, and that's why I'm here now. So maybe she did that in like, she even says like, I don't know why this happened, like I just maybe subconsciously, like she's like, I don't fucking know, like I just went there and then I was there and I saw the stranger, like
That's fair.
So
yeah, it's a weird plot mechanism that I feel like Pike uses a few times in his books, where people just randomly get in the cars and start driving. And I'm like, is this what people did in the 80s and 90s when they were just bored?
It is, though. It really is, because
it really
it's
is.
not like it is now where you have like
I
a
used to
phone
do
and
that.
GPS. Yeah, like my mom would do that when she would get upset. Like she would get into her car and just drive, and she'd come home like a few hours later and we're like, where did you go? She's like, I was just driving.
Yeah.
Like, where? She's like, I don't know. Like I just went driving, like to
Gas
clear
was
my head.
cheaper too.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I guess global warming wasn't as big of a concern, so people are like, yeah, let's
it
just
wasn't
take
as
the car
immediate
out.
a concern, that's for sure.
At least speaking for my mom, it wasn't a concern at all. So
let's just randomly start driving.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. In my junker of a car, because usually these are junkers.
Honestly, I thought it was so much, like I didn't have my own car until I was like in my early 20s, so I thought it was a normal thing that people just got into their car and drive. And then I was like, I'll get upset and I'll get in my car and I'm like, where the fuck am I going? I have nowhere to go. Like I'm just gonna park and sit here and stew. Like I can't just drive. I have no destination. I hate being in traffic. Like other people making me mad. They drive terribly. I don't want to be that. It's making me like angrier. So I don't know how that worked for other people.
That's a good point, because like they live in LA in this book, which actually is one of the is one of the only ones where they live specifically in LA, because usually it's middle America from what I remember.
Yeah.
But like, damn, like she's getting in traffic.
Yeah. But she's just like zipping along, going here and there.
Yeah. Driving to ghosts,
They're
out
driving
on the
to
lake.
See ghosts, yeah.
Of Neil that you can't recognize, even though it's clearly him from the description.
Yeah.
It's so clearly him.
Well, I was fascinated when, like, midway through the book, they randomly dropped that, that whole thing, book 1, that was 3 months ago.
What?
Oh, I missed that that micro drop. Oh my god, this is only happening
3 months ago.
I thought it was a year before.
No.
Oh, they act like it's a.
They say
it was a year before when they killed the guy.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying that they got the letters 3 months
before. So the chain
before.
letter happened for like
chain letter book 1 was 3 months before chain letter book 2.
Oh.
So when did the first chain letter come to them? How long was this first chain letter going on?
I don't know.
If they had only a break for 3 months.
Yeah, it's weird.
That chain letter was going on for almost a year.
Maybe this is shortly. I'm so confused. Well, because did they get the first chain letter on the 1-year anniversary of the death or no?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so the first book. So the first book
so
is
it
1
is like
year
I know
after,
last
and
summer.
this is 3 months after.
The first book is 1 year later.
So much of this is ripped. Like I was reading this, and I just recently we watched I Know What You Did Last Summer for one of the movie parties, like last weekend or the weekend before. And I was reading this, and then I remember after watching that, I went and Wikipedia'd because I didn't remember the other movies, and I saw that there were more sequels that I've not even seen. So I like Wikipedia'd everything that happens. And so when I was reading this, I was like, hold on, this is very familiar. Hang on, like wait, and I was just shocked. Like there are so many similarities, and it's like obviously like it's different. There are different things. There's no hook on his hand. He's not a fisherman.
Right.
There are different plot points, but also like
they're in LA.
Yeah, but like, is it different though? Like, are they very different?
It's
like,
not that different.
They're not.
No,
they get a letter a year after they run over somebody that they did not know.
Yeah,
that like that. I Know What You Did Last Summer could literally be like, okay, not literally, but it could be a chain letter adaptation. They could have just been like Christopher Pike's movie is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like it's different, but it's the gist.
Honestly, it's close enough that I mean it's also far away from the book I Know What You Did Last Summer, so it exists probably just as different as both.
Yeah.
Of them. Yeah.
We'll just count it as canon for both.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, that timeline is strange.
It is.
This book has so many inconsistencies. The one I did want to bring up is when Eric and Allison first meet, their conversation. I reread this like a few times because I was like, wait a minute. No, in no way did Eric ever mention to Allison that he has an uncle that's a police officer. And Allison is like, are you going to go tell your uncle, the police officer uncle on me? And I was like, hold on a second. She did not know that. And then I wondered if it was like a spiritual thing, if she was already possessed because she kind of was having the dreams like Tony. And I was like, well, maybe the like caretaker like whispered it into her ear when she was talking, or she's the evil one. I couldn't remember the ending. But like, it makes no sense that she would have known.
Interesting.
In that time, that because like, then it reveals later in a couple of pages where he then says, oh, well, my uncle is a police officer. And then she goes, oh, is that it? And I'm like, wait, you literally just admitted that you knew that.
Interesting. I did not notice that.
It happened so fast because it's like a yelling conversation.
We do get a pretty good back and forth here. You don't look like a police officer. Show me your badge. He stopped in mid-stride. I'm off duty. Yeah, right. You look like you're off duty from high school. I like that, actually. I'm on board with that kind of exchange.
Oh, she does acknowledge that she's ridiculing his handicap.
Great.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The specific line is, because if you are, you can go back to the police station and get your uncle and have him come arrest me. And then I read the pages before, and there is not one single one, because he's supposedly still a police officer to her. So I think we're right about him writing this like in a one night sitting, and just like the edits must have been wild.
Eric does have an interesting, like the most prescient thing in the whole book. He says computers are the detectives of the future. With the right program and the right data, they can uncover almost anything. And that strikes me as something that Pike read and was very excited about, and tried to put in as much as possible in his books, was that computers are going to change the way police work is done.
I found the part too. It's like right before that. He says Eric confessed what his real relationship was to the police department, which seemed to her to be only that of a hopeful reject, which harsh, but not wrong. So I think that's where he tells her probably about the uncle. They just don't specifically say like he tells her about the uncle.
It's sloppy.
But the quote of the uncle happens at the top of that page. So it literally like that what you're reading.
That's the very first time.
Yes. So it says she talks about the uncle, and then literally in the later of the page, it's the part that you just read. So he confesses after. It's an inconsistency. I found it. I was just like, it drove me nuts when I read that. I was like, wait a minute. Did I miss something?
Because I get that like he's pumping them out super quickly, but how
it's a bad one.
Right.
That they missed it on the same page.
And how did they not, the people that are being paid to read this and point out these things, how are they not pointing out these things? Maybe they emailed him and they were like, hey, we don't like this. And he's like, oh yeah. And then he writes Master of Murder. And he's like, and then my fucking editors. He's like, they're always bitching about inconsistencies in my writing.
And then it escalates to Remember Me Too.
Yes.
With the troll.
The little troll, yes. Wow. Oh my God, this is too much.
Wow.
This is too much.
We've cracked it, and wow.
Yeah. I'm picturing him typing so angry, reading that email, and then going to his manuscript. He's like, oh yeah? Okay, have fucking fun editing this one.
Look, he didn't even say uncle. Look. Yeah, he's drinking a bottle of whiskey. He's got his eyes are all bloodshot like Brenda. And he's just writing the angry edits to the book.
They're just highlighting it, and they're just like, how does she know it's his uncle? And he's like,
you literally mentioned at the end of this page that he tells her everything.
Yeah, it's just a big question mark in a line circling the part at the end of the page.
So like, we know this as the reader, but does she know this as a person?
They must have just moved the paragraphs around. He's like, yeah, this all reads. This is consistent.
Yeah, I'm on board. Yeah, I found my quote here: cheating bitch, goddamn
Ugh,
bitch. Swear
yeah.
words had been invented for times like this.
Oh my god.
He is
It
the
was
most basic. Like his
Tony.
insults too are so
I know.
misogynistic and so basic. Like you're like a 12-year-old boy insulting your girlfriend or the girl you have a crush on right now. Like you sound so stupid.
Not
He
only
doesn't
basic.
deserve to have sex with anyone.
No,
if he
that's
thinks
true.
this
No.
That's
way.
true.
Not at
But he
all.
gets to have sex with creepy dead Sasha multiple times there.
Oh yeah,
So
the
she takes
girl
his
with the embalming
virginity.
fluid like vibing in her veins. It's lovely.
Have either of you ever heard the Whore of Babylon referred to as the Harlot of Babylon?
No, I actually reread that like 5 times.
Yeah.
I was reading this on the not the treadmill, like on a bike at the gym, and I looked at that and went, "That's interesting." I said
Yeah.
that out loud, and like the person next to me was just like, "What?" And I was just like,
I can't
nothing."
explain it. I'm sorry.
Wait, because what? What?
So the line is, she was worse than the harlot of Babylon. She was a whore.
It's like a deep reference.
Traditionally, it's the whore of Babylon. Specifically. Like,
Oh.
every time I've ever heard that phrase, it has been the whore of Babylon.
I've only ever
never
heard it
the
from
harlot.
Avenged Sevenfold song, and it was called The Beast and the Harlot. So I thought
Yeah.
harlot
all right.
is
Interesting.
So I don't know. I read that and I was like, oh wow, he's just trying to be like extra misogyny. Okay, cool. Like I guess we're just calling everybody a whore now. Like
I mean, he says it so many times to the point to where, I was just like, I cannot believe I read this when I was in 7th grade. It is like so mean.
Here's
to
the
women.
worst part here. Fine, Tony said coldly. I didn't cheat on you either when I slept with Sasha. All's fair in love. This time he spat on her.
He literally spits on her.
And then
she
calls her a
bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes in the car and like the girl looks like she's eating his face. Like what? What kind of weird movie?
Like a face
like
sucker.
this is so strange.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and a snake comes out of her body in the end, right?
Yes,
So
yes. A worm, a black worm.
Or leech. It looked like it said it was like a leech, but it was the size of a snake. Like 5 feet or something.
And that happens like 3 pages till it ends. Like they drop that worm and then they're like, yeah, that's the end.
And that's the caretaker. And he kills it, he smushes it, and it reminded me of that scene in the desert with some lizard creature or something. I forgot which book it was.
That would be Scavenger Hunt. Yes.
So it reminded me of that scene with that house and the thing.
Yeah, the purple lizard.
Yes, because he crunches
he
it
loves
under the boot.
desert.
Yeah.
He does. He really does. And then he's just like, that's the end of that caretaker. They won't be back. And I'm just like, that was a fucking caretaker? What?
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Wait a minute. If that's the caretaker, then what is the hand on the cover of this book?
Well,
now,
Brian didn't know that because he was given a very specific idea of what he needs to be doing.
Okay. All right.
I believe this is Sasha. You will see your whore digging in the mud, and you will take the gun and put a hole in her brain and bury her in the mud, and then you will be my love. We will make love on her grave, and it will be like heaven.
It is sick stuff. And like then they talk about playing with the bodies, like her and Eric's.
right.
I'm just like, holy shit. And this happens all 10 pages before it ends. I was just like, this is
here's that. Can I ask something before I die? Allison asked. Of course, the girl said. You can ask things while you're dying if you can stop screaming. The night's young. We'll play a while before you go into the ground. I actually really like that. That was in my good writing section.
But also it makes no sense in the fact that he has a gun and he's supposed to kill her with the gun.
He is supposed to blow her brains out. Very
so I'm
true.
like, that's cool. With what are they going to torture her with?
Yeah. You got nothing.
They didn't bring any like tools to torture her out in the desert. So I don't know. That would have been tough. That would have been a tough thing.
Our big cheat reveal win is that Allie pulls the trigger on the gun.
She pulls the trigger of a gun full of blanks, which is the first time I had ever known what a blank was.
Oh, yeah.
And they hardcore explain.
They really do. Yeah.
And this isn't the first book
That's
he's
why Eric's
hardcore
there.
explained blanks in, too, which is the wildest thing. He loves
He's
guns.
obsessed with blanks.
Yeah.
Well,
He's like,
you
this
know
is
what?
how you get out of shooting people.
Let's move into the eternal enemy, who here is both Sasha / Charlene / Jane, and this nebulous concept of the caretakers, which, as we talked about, is very much playing into satanic panic.
Right. Yeah, because the whole cult thing with Sasha in the beginning and the punk and I wouldn't even call it punk music. I would just call it like death metal, probably.
It's Satan metal.
And they have like tortured and sacrificed animals and like black candles because those are the work of Satanists, obviously. And
When I do get this is a weird way of saying it. I get a kick out of the fact that Jane committed suicide by falling onto a propped up knife in her bedroom. It's a very cool, ritualistic suicide. And the only time I can ever think of anything in media that's like that is in The Dead Zone, when the killer falls onto a scissors that's propped open to kill himself.
Where does he land on it? Like in his throat or his chest?
His face. I think it goes into his,
Oh, that's awful. Jeez Louise.
It's an awesome death.
Do they show it?
Yeah.
Like in detail?
I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I remember seeing it, but who knows if I actually saw it.
That's fair. Maybe they like cut and your brain just put it together.
Like I have seen the meat hook penetrating the back of Leatherface's victim, even though I know 100% it didn't happen.
Oh, does it not?
It does not.
Oh my God, I feel like I can see that too.
I know. See, your brain inserted that into your memory of that scene, but that absolutely did not happen.
Oh, weird.
So Jane also has, as you mentioned, black candles burning, pentagons painted in her own blood, drawn all over her naked body, and her poor parents found her.
I think it's a pentagram. I don't think it's a pentagon.
Did I say pentagon?
I think.
I'm sorry. And then we get this. Before her parents went to bed that night, Jane told them that she had killed her lover and dumped his body in the desert. And then her parents went to bed.
Her parents were like, okay.
Yeah.
They were like, sleep it off, girl. Good night.
Like, all right.
They're like, just vibe. It's fine. We'll figure it out in the morning.
It's so weird.
Sure you did, darling. Sure you did.
And so Sasha does say that she met Neil. She met him in the desert where they buried the man. He had brought flowers to put on the man's grave. It was 2 months after you killed the man with your car. So that's where she and Neil hooked up.
So that was 2 months after they killed him. So 10 months later. So it took 10 months of planning for him to start the chain letter thing and for her influence to fully and so that was 10 months because they say that he didn't have cancer before that until she kissed his head and knee.
Right. She kissed his head and knee and gave him cancer, apparently.
That festers for 10 months before the first book even starts.
It's some wild writing.
Yes.
It's like, wild. Oh, this is why all this stuff happened in the first book. It's like,
that's what we call a retcon.
It's wild though, because as we've proven, you don't have to read the first book to enjoy this one.
No, that's true. That's true.
It's so strange. That's so unique to have. First of all, I don't think it's totally unique to have a sequel that's better than the original, because I know people say you can't do that, but I've had a lot of sequels I've liked more than the original. But for this to be I don't even need the original at this point. I'm just this is my Blade 2, but in book form. I'm just
very nice,
I don't need Blade. I'm good with this. Yeah. And it's got evil creatures and loud, scary music. And
honestly, that's how I feel about Terminator 2.
Yeah, that's another good one.
I never need to see Terminator 1 again. As far as I care, there is only one Terminator, and it's number 2.
That's how I feel about Blade, yeah.
That's reasonable, too, about Blade. Okay, so here she says, another caretaker will come, and then another, an endless chain of them, you might say. There are so many of us who want to come out and play. So my thought is, the caretakers are demons that are able to corrupt. But is it part of the satanic panic? Were they called? Did Charlene call the caretaker?
They don't really specify because they say that she had like a master and that she was the apprentice, but they don't really specify how she even fell in with that, because they said she was such a nice girl before she met those people. But then, so the weird thing too is that they also say
she wanted to be a
didn't have
witch.
friends. Yeah, she wanted to be a witch. She didn't have any friends. Boys and girls both did not like her. So that
Wild.
leads me to believe there's something wrong with her. Just she's probably some sort of evil person already. And that's how she was able to get fully corrupted by the caretakers. Whereas Neil, they say that he got away. So they could not fully corrupt him because he was too good. And I think that's the point of this too, is that they're trying to prove that Tony is also too good. But really, bullshit. Like, he was about to kill her.
Is way better.
Yes, he is. He definitely is.
Yeah, and Tony wasn't quote unquote too good. Are you kidding me? Like, in the first chapter, he's having a hissy fit about his girlfriend going to NYU.
Yeah. He's a baby. And if she had not pulled that trigger, he would have done it. So I don't even understand how this loophole fits the book.
Yeah. He was totally about to do it.
He was about to kill
like,
her.
I'm ready.
Wait,
it wasn't love.
We do have to really, really give kudos to Joan, who, while not in much of the book, is the only one to legitimately fool the caretakers.
Oh, yeah, because she did the blanks, and then they were like,
done with blanks, and it still went on.
Yeah.
But then they have that little thing at the end with Eric, and he was like, I want to check. And they were like, don't check. Maybe it was magic.
Yeah, right.
Because maybe Neil did it. So it's like, maybe Joan did, or maybe Neil ghost magicked it to happen.
And we don't want to know if something was a miracle or not, because faith.
Wild ending.
Do we have anything else we want to say about these enemies, the eternal enemy here, the villains?
I wish there was a third book.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yes. I want to learn about where these worm creature thing leeches come from, and
there's definitely more to this.
Yeah, there's a lot, I feel like, and I could do without Tony, honestly. Let's just go back to Sasha, Jane, Charlene, and how she got involved, and then earlier than that. That would be good for me.
What we need to do is write book 3, which stars Joan as a full queer character.
She's off in those mountains again.
Yeah. Yep.
In the mountains, communing with nature and discovering the true secrets of the caretakers. And we could set it in modern day, 30 years later.
Yeah, make it like one of their kids or something.
Wait, she'd be
it's a chain letter, on their computer.
Yeah.
Or in a text message, update it.
Oh, that would be cool, doing an updated version.
That would be cool. We should do that.
One of the parents, it's either Joan or Brenda.
That would be so
Brenda.
good.
It could be Brenda.
They should really do that.
I mean, we should tell Pike we're doing it.
We're just doing it. I'm like, I stole this from the library. I have the most. I am the best person for this job.
Yes. Okay, well, let's move into Thirst, where we talk about titillation and sexuality in Pike's world. There's not a lot in this book.
What?
I mean, there's a lot of talking about doing it or making love, but there's not a lot of actually doing it. So I only have a few quotes here.
Are your quotes about their passion?
No.
Because that was the part.
I got the only time I don't smell is right after I've taken a shower, when I'm naked.
Oh.
It's sexy.
Oh my God.
Naked.
The only time this room doesn't reek is
of
after a
formaldehyde.
shower.
Yeah.
I know. And how is that supposed to be sexy, dude? She's like, because I've got boobies and a butt and I'm naked. But he's like, okay, but you stink, dude. Like, what?
Sometimes I'm naked.
Sometimes when I take a shower, I have to take my clothes off. Oh, wow.
I just imagine her standing there being covered in literal feces, and she's just like, I'm naked under this. It's just like, okay, gross. Go take a shower. Ew.
Well, so knowing she's been embalmed, we know this.
So disgusting.
Now listen to this next quote and tell me if it makes sense. So Tony blushed. Does this mean I don't get a massage? Sasha blushed as well and was even more beautiful, for the blood gave color to her face, which was quite pale. You can have a massage and then some, Tony. So that's the sexy line. But if she's been embalmed, she doesn't have blood at
No,
all.
So how could she blush?
Right.
Maybe they've got that pink embalming fluid.
Oh, the pink embalming fluid like flushes her cheeks. I like this read.
Yeah, maybe.
Or she's got the heavily caked on makeup of the funeral home.
It's interesting. That feels like it was not thought through.
It was
when
not.
he wrote that.
It was very much not.
Do they mention it? Why that? Like, so I know that they keep mentioning that she doesn't take her shirt off, but do they explain that it's because she probably has that hole, or because she was like?
They don't. I was waiting for him to
Me
take her
too.
shirt off and find the
Yes.
hole.
Like a green ribbon story type thing.
It has to be because of the hole, but also if there's a hole in her back, how does the worm stay in there? I have a lot of thoughts.
Her head, remember? Because it comes out of her mouth.
No. And let's be real about this. She's been embalmed, which means she's had an autopsy, which means she has the big Y scar on her chest. That may be part of why she doesn't want to take her shirt off.
How does he not
No,
notice
but it's
that she
only
has no
on her
heart?
back, right? It like the way he described the shirt, it sounded like it was almost unbuttoned and it was just her back it was hiding.
Oh.
But maybe I misread that.
No, she keeps her shirt on at all times. Like there's
Okay.
one where she has like a robe or something around her, and then there's another one where she has a black shirt on and
The
she
black
leaves that
blouse,
on but takes everything off. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I just got confused because
He
of the
never
robe, and I
mentions her
assumed that the
boobies.
robe was like undone in the beginning.
No, I was
He does
waiting
never
for
mention
it.
him.
No, he was like, she's shapely nose, and I was like, anything else? And he was like, nah, just her nose is shapely, I guess. We're only going to talk about that. Because the rest is covered in black blouse, I guess, so we get no description.
Well,
I mean, he does say their sex is nasty.
Yeah, I have that line right here, actually. Before he could speak, she had pressed her finger to his lips and whispered in his ear that she wanted his love. And I am so creeped out by that. She had slipped into the bed beside him, and they had done the nasty deed, and it had been nasty.
Nasty.
So dumb.
Whoa. And then he like later, like I think a couple paragraphs down is just like, yeah, but I didn't feel anything.
I think he's
Even though it was
enjoying
nasty.
himself or something. He's like, I did not like that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. He's like, it was nasty, but I mean, like, not in a good way.
She had not showered right before, so
he went back to pining for Allie because their love is the most powerful thing in this book.
No, it's their lust for each other. Literally, the only thing that they have between each other, according to the first chapter, is that they just really like having sex with each other,
or deciding to break up.
or deciding to break up. Yeah, because there's no in between for them.
None.
Wait, but they didn't have sex, did they?
They did.
They do.
Not in the book. Not in the
book, but in theory,
in general, they do.
Oh,
because of the mutual. That line is very confusing.
What was the line? They
were
solved
responsible for each other. Oh, they solved. I thought they said they were responsible for each other's mutual virginity.
Oh,
so
lack of virginity.
Oh, okay.
It is a very bad sentence.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I totally misread that even when we were talking about, because I was like, okay, so they're both virgins, and they are both virgins because they're dating, and they've chosen, like, I don't know why that's worth point. Okay, like, I guess, but
they're not virgins.
No, yeah, okay. Okay.
They,
well, that
they
makes
love
it less
to bone
egregious,
each other.
too. Yeah. I thought he was really like, I thought he did not sleep with her though, and then he was like, "Well, fuck you. Let me go like bang this garnet-haired beauty, like embalming fluid babe." Like, and so I was like, I know, and I was even more mad. I was like, "Damn, like that's so rude." And so it made sense too when he gets her in typical dude fashion. He's like, "All right, had this one. I'm gonna go back now. I miss this other one who I have not had," and like. Yeah. But apparently he has, and he's just like wanting all of his cake and to eat it and to embalm it and whatever.
Really, all he wants is for his cake not to move to NYC.
Yeah, he just wants his cake to stay with him so he can eat that cake whenever he wants.
So he can fuck it whenever he wants.
Which in theory, that plot point is never resolved. We don't know what's happening at the end of the book,
right?
if she's moving or not.
Yeah, if
we don't know.
You know what? You know she's staying because he's not going with her.
Ugh.
You know it.
Oh, yeah, because love saved them all.
Yeah.
And she's going to be like, staying. "Oh, I really do love you, so I'm going to stay."
Well, she probably needs to rethink her future anyway.
So. You know what? That spot at the school can go to somebody else who's more worthy because she doesn't deserve it at that point.
Just like the Harvard spot.
Yeah.
She didn't listen to Brenda.
So I've got this weird out of nowhere sex line that's from Eric. So the question of an
Right.
unfolding mystery, Eric was bursting with excitement. This was better than sex with Meryl Runyon. Well, he wouldn't know that for sure. They had never actually done it, but it was better than making out with her. Meryl had always had bad breath.
This is a wild paragraph.
It really is.
And he's 21. Like, who? What?
Like, what is going on? He's like, this is better than sex with this person that I
Right?
never had sex with, but you know.
What the hell are you even
What?
thinking, dude? Like, I'm
What's
gonna just
going
stop
on?
you right there.
It's
But
so
also making
weird.
out with her wasn't really great, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on in his head? It is bonkers.
It's bonkers, but then also at the end, I was kind of left with like, gross girl, brush your teeth. Like, why? Like, that was the part too that I was just like, oh no, like I don't want to make out with her. That's nah. Like,
Oh,
why did they give me that information? How gross! Like, I don't want to hear about it.
Poor
But
Meryl
you know who
Runyon.
also
Right?
has bad breath is Tony.
That's true because
After
he's
he
making
starts
out with.
making out with.
That's true.
Yes, embalming
So
babe.
maybe this Meryl, maybe she was in the cult.
Oh my gosh,
okay.
maybe she is.
She's been
In
embalmed
layers.
also.
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah.
he was like Neil because Neil never slept with her, from what I understood in the book.
No, she just kissed his knees and then
Yeah.
his forehead.
And his
Yeah,
head.
she just made out with him, and
Ugh.
so maybe Eric is like Neil. He's too pure of a soul.
God.
She comes over and she's like all hot and like dripping with embalming fluid. He's like, sorry, I gotta go to my uncle's police station to look on the computer all night.
Yeah.
I don't have time for you.
Oh, big nerd energy.
Okay, let's move into. Well, I mean, Die Softly. We've already talked about the problematic shit. There's the making fun of the deafness that has
Oh,
no
yeah.
point, and there's the ridiculous misogynistic trope of the Whore of Babylon again. Any other moralizing and problematic elements I'm missing?
I don't
No, I mean,
think so. I think that was
Tony and Allison are just like a big giant problem.
Yeah.
They are red flag all over. Red flag.
Yeah, Tony is just really terrible towards women. He doesn't deserve to be with anyone.
No.
He needs to get his brain checked.
I mean, he kind of deserved to be with Sasha.
Yeah.
He really should have paid a price for that, too. And he didn't.
He doesn't get any punishment. Like, he's a shitbag the entire book, and he gets nothing but saved at the end, which he doesn't deserve. And then it's like, oh,
And his
I love
girlfriend
you so much.
even
Happy ending.
sacrifices herself
Yes.
because she doesn't know that they're
No,
blind.
she thinks she's gonna die. They all think she's like dead.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, please, angel of heaven, save her. Please, come back. No, don't go. Like, what do you... Ugh, shut up. Just rolling my eyes at him the whole time and I want to punch him in the face. He made me so mad in this book. Like, I like this, but Tony, he's probably one of my least favorite characters in any of Pike's books so far.
I'm with you.
Yeah, the misogyny is strong in this one. It
Usually
is
it's
like
quieter.
it is not quiet.
No, it's loud. Capital WHORE repeatedly.
It's a lot of it.
Hey, swearing was invented for things like this.
God.
For saying bitch 5 times in a row. Yeah.
Bitch and whore. Well, I think the goddamn part was the swearing part, but I'm not sure.
That's hilarious.
Because you
In
don't get to
retrospect.
say goddamn in point horror. You can say
That's
damn.
true.
You don't get to say goddamn.
That's true.
Speaking of textual passages, let's move into the season of passage, where we talk about the best and worst writing and Pikeisms. We already mentioned my favorite Pikeism in the world, which is McDonald's. Not once, but twice do we get McDonald's here. Tony later goes and orders a hamburger, fries, and a Coke from the McDonald's. He figures he couldn't go wrong with that. But then there's this. He picked up his hamburger and took a bite. They had cooked it well done, just the way he liked it. Now, I'm going to again reinforce what the fuck McDonald's are here. A McDonald's hamburger is an eighth of a pound. It is like a half a centimeter thick. There is no way to not cook that well done, period. That's how it's cooked.
I've never heard of someone going to McDonald's and being like, yes, I'll have it medium rare.
Well,
The only
in
time I've ever
Monster,
heard it. Yeah,
somebody
it's
has a Big
the main
Mac
character. Yeah,
rare.
'cause she's
Oh
eating
my
them in
God,
her
you're
car.
right.
Yeah.
I
And she's like,
remember
this isn't rare
that.
enough for me, and then she needs to buy like actual raw meat.
Yeah, and I got very angry there too, because
Yeah.
you cannot buy a
I
Big Mac
remember that.
rare.
In that episode, Cooper was like, "That's not a fucking thing."
Yeah. Somebody doesn't understand how McDonald's works.
Which is wild considering how many times he references
That's
it. Like,
true.
don't you maybe? So
And
this is
fat
my
shames
thinking.
characters with it.
Yeah. He goes to McDonald's, and when he goes, he's like, "I'd like that well done." And then they're just like, "Okay, dude,
And they're
sure."
like,
And they give
"Yeah,
him a
okay."
normal burger, and then he's just like, "Oh, I fucking love it when they do this, man." Perfect every time. He just
Tony is
includes
not
that
the
in his
brightest
book.
bulb.
Oh my god.
It's established like in a throwaway sentence that he's going to community college, so somehow got into Harvard but can't get into anything
Yeah.
else.
Jesus. So I have this line in Best. It's not best, but it's probably one of the smartest things in the book. Girls change when you get to know them. They
Oh.
turn into people with problems.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's like problems they want help solving or some shit
Yeah,
like
problems they want help solving. Yeah.
I was-
Like Tony has not been
Incredible.
asked to solve any problems
No.
by Allie.
No,
But
he
I'm
just
glad
sits there and
realize
complains.
that she has turned into a person.
And
Oh.
honestly, her only and biggest problem is him.
Yeah,
He's
really.
the problem. She's got a scholarship. She's going to a school. She's doing cool things. He's like, "Hey, babe, stay here with me. Boring ass oatmeal." And she's like, "Whoa, what a problem." And
Boring
he's
ass
like,
oatmeal.
"Dude, fuck these girls. They've always got problems and shit, and they need people to help them."
When they become a person, it just becomes
Yeah.
exhausting.
It's so much easier when
mind-boggling.
they're not persons. People.
It's
It
just
makes it so much easier when they're just caretakers.
when they just want to sit around and bone all day. I hate it when they want to go to school. Fuck that education shit. Like, it's just I don't know how Pike wrote this, and genuinely must have thought that he's a redeemable character by the end of this book with the way this ends. Like, it's so wild to me. It's so weird that he doesn't die.
Tony is the one that thinks that he literally modern jets. Oh my god, that the fact that he said modern jets can get to New York in 5 hours. It
These
kills
modern
me.
jets.
Like, Tony, what era are you from? What era are you from?
Yeah.
I can't believe he doesn't die. You're right. It doesn't make sense that he lives.
It's offensive that he doesn't die.
This is like a character that he usually writes to them being like to their death.
Yeah, right.
They usually do die, or they're like a big evil, like in Monster, they're like the big bad guy, like his name is Jim or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's nothing but awful, and then he needs somebody else to save him from himself. Like, why does he exist? I'm so mad about it. I really wish that the caretakers had taken care of that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I'm gonna say
I
about
do too.
Tony.
Like, maybe she grabbed the gun and turned it around.
Yes, and shot him. That just ends the cycle. We're good.
Or maybe he could have redeemed himself and just shot himself.
Oh, that would work too, for love. There.
Yes. And if
There
he
you
shot
go.
himself in the chest, he could have still lived even, and then just gone on to do his own. Right, but like I would have
But
been
could
like,
have been
fine.
redeeming.
Yeah.
You stay in California. She's going to New York still. Now you're shot. Like, this is karma. That makes sense. But she's shot on top of all this, and he doesn't even. No, he doesn't even get shot. He doesn't get possessed. He doesn't get. Nothing bad happens to him, does it? That I can.
No.
He gets sex.
He just gets to have sex
He's the
with the
only
woman
one-
that's
yes.
embalmed
He's literally the only one who gets laid in this
with
book.
a worm inside her.
Well, and theoretically, now that their love has conquered all, he's going to get sex with Allie again.
Oh,
Yeah, gross. I would never sleep with that guy.
I am disgusted by him.
my hope
He's
is that
awful.
Eric and Allie get together.
Yes,
if only
that'd be cute.
to take
'Cause
her
Eric is
away from
respectful.
Tony. Yeah.
And then
'Cause
maybe Eric
Eric-
can be a cop, or at least like work in the station somehow, helping his uncle.
Yeah.
Honestly, Eric should just be like a thriller writer.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
wait, actually, so I have a question. Is that so? I don't personally know about this, but maybe that's the point then, why he is not an actual cop because of his hearing. Maybe they won't let him be a cop.
That
and that's
actually
the
very
point of
well
why
could
they
be,
keep
yeah.
mentioning it. Yeah, because they stress it so hard that he is not a cop, and it's like, why? He could just be his cop character, but he's like, no, it's my uncle. I was like listening in, like maybe this is why, and why they also hammer that disability.
I mean, but
so
he
hard.
also is 21, so I don't think you're a cop yet at 21.
No, but
Well,
he's not even in
I think they
school or
do
anything for
mention
it,
that
right?
the
Like the
ear
academy.
thing is a reason that
Oh,
he
okay.
can't be a cop. I
Oh,
think they
do they?
mentioned that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, okay, I think I missed that part then, because I think that makes sense as to why that is a part of his character then. That totally
But
makes sense
also
to
that
me.
character could have literally been a cop. It doesn't
He
make
could
any sense.
Yeah, no, I completely
Or
agree. Maybe
just a
they'll
teenager who is into true crime.
that's
No, that's a very like 2010s thing.
Oh, that's
yeah,
true.
I think so,
That's
and
true.
also
It's-
he wouldn't have been able to get the records and
No,
like
he can still be his uncle who's a cop.
oh, so you're saying he just doesn't
Yeah,
want to
he's
be a
just
cop,
a
like,
computer
okay.
guy.
Yeah, that honestly, and Pike could have written himself into that, like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I think you're
We
right, but I
solved
also
it.
think it
we
it,
did.
it makes
We
sense.
solved it again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. We fill all these
Rewrite.
plot holes. Like, please let us edit these, pointing out the inconsistencies, filling things in.
Yeah, just let us rewrite them all for the modern
We're
age.
just like the little trolls in his closet that can help
Yeah, we
him
are.
with things.
We are. I'm
Didn't
sure.
they do that for a few
I'm
of his
sure
books,
he's
though?
just as thrilled about our ideas as they are about that troll.
Every time he gets a message, somebody's like, "Did you know there's a PikeCast?" He's like, "Please, I don't want to
It's
hear
like,
about that."
I'm so sick of that podcast. All they do is talk about what I should have written.
Like all they're doing is talking about how this couldn't have been written in 2021. I know that. I know I couldn't write this now.
Do you see me writing this now?
That's why I'm making these movies.
He's just furious with us, I think.
No, bless. We love him.
We do.
We do.
We do.
We do. We do.
Okay, so I have two more lines here. So this is weird. The attending minister spoke about the valley of the shadow of death and lying down in green pastures to rest beside clear waters. It all sounded like a badly written fairy tale to Allison. If there was a God, he was keeping his address secret. Maybe he didn't want to get a chain letter.
I just like in the background, it just starts playing that "What If God Was One of Us" song.
He just doesn't want a chain letter.
He doesn't
guys.
want
That's
a chain letter. No.
That's it. He just doesn't want to run into these caretakers. He's like, fuck that.
I don't like leeches, man.
And my last bit here is one of Pike's plot balloons. Eric took to a sci-fi film about a future society of humans who wanted to be robots.
These all sound like book ideas to me.
For sure. And he's followed through on some of them. But
I
I'm
don't
not
remember
sure
robots
if
in one.
humans who wanted to be robots. I'm not sure if that was ever a thing. So
It does sound like the book that they're writing in Remember Me 3, though.
oh God.
We haven't gotten to that one yet. We're close, but we're not looking forward to it because we did
No,
not like Remember
we
Me
did not
Too.
like Remember Me Too.
Oh,
at
is that the one where they're basically doing Jaws?
No.
They're filming a
No.
movie in that one?
No, not
Oh,
in
no.
Remember Me Too.
That's in 3. That's
That
in
is-
3.
If-
I am like just thinking of 3 right
Oh
now.
God. Oh
Two is a
God.
lot of ghost stuff.
Because
and
I'm
a
pretty
lot
sure
of-
they're filming a movie and then they're writing a book within a book. Oh, that one's
Oh, that just
one's
sounds
quite a book.
wonderful.
I love the first one though. That
Oh
book
yeah,
is-
first one
the
I do
first
like
one
the
is
best one, yeah.
great.
it is his best book he ever wrote. Hot take, maybe. I don't know if that's hot take or not.
I mean,
I
it
honestly don't
is
remember where I
among our
rated it.
highest rated.
It
I
is,
love
yeah.
that book.
I think through all three of us, right? Like we all
Yeah,
rated that one pretty
and
highly?
Remember Me Too is our lowest rated book so
yeah,
far.
that sounds about right. Yep.
But let's
I
get
don't
back to
remember.
this book,
Yes.
Chain Letter 2, and we'll get into last act, final thoughts. So, first of all, revisiting it all these years later, was it worth the theft?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Oh my God, so worth it.
Good,
Because
good.
of the story, but also because, it is not only did I steal it, but it was the first of a many.
Yeah, the
And
beginning of your love affair with Pike.
Yeah, it's funny because I
Oh.
remember the specific
I thought
second
you
one I
meant
read
the
too.
first of many that you stole from the library.
Oh.
I was like, wait, what?
I've only ever stolen one book, and this is the one.
Now, just so you don't feel bad, I have stolen 3 books from the library,
I
and
think you mentioned
they were
that
all
to me.
books that I could not get elsewhere.
I have stolen
Well.
one book, and it was an accident. The library has this thing where you can just put the books down, and you can self-check them out. And one of the books, I guess, did not scan. It didn't register. So I brought them all home not knowing. And then like when I looked and it was like, these books are due, it never told me that one was due. And so I never took it off the shelf and returned it. And I just never realized until suddenly it was like, you have no books out. And I was like, wait a minute. Yes, I do. I've got this book. But then I got too scared because I was like, what if they ban me from the library if I bring it back now? And so I still have it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my story.
So we've all stolen library books.
Yes, and I have guilt about it because I really genuinely wasn't. It wasn't a choice for me until after when I was like, oh no, what did I do? Yeah. And
Except did you guys do it when you were 12?
No, that's
mine was in high school. I stole my book.
I mean, those are both understandable because your brains are still forming. So you're like, you haven't yet formed a part of your brain that's like, don't steal from libraries. Meanwhile, I'm an adult, like 31 years old, and I was like, oh no, I've got bad karma for the rest of my life. I stole from a library. And then I took like a box of books to the library to donate. I was like, here, have these books for free. Add them to your circulation or donate them. I don't know. Here you go.
Oh, you gave it back?
No, I gave back other books. I still have that one.
Well, you should have just donated that book, and then you would never have to worry about it again.
What if they can trace it to me somehow? Like they can scan it for my fingerprints or something and just know that it came from me, and then they would be like,
they don't care, right?
No, they'll know. They'll judge me.
Libraries are across the country getting rid of late fees in general because they just want people to read.
Yeah, I noticed that all through the pandemic, I did not get any late fees for the books I did have out, even though I had them out and was not reading them. I did return those though, just so we're clear. Those are returned. Well, I'm going to stop talking about the library.
Well, I just don't want you to feel bad anymore. And I would say that if they don't know you have it, then how would turning it in lead back to you?
In my head. So listen, look, there are different
they're not going to fingerprint the book.
You don't know that, first of all. So that is one of the scenarios. Listen, they could take it in, fingerprint it, and be like, what other books came in with this one at this time? And then they'll be like, okay, these other 4 books were returned to Cassie Daly. Okay, this one came in with Cassie Daly. She stole this book. That's a scenario. Also, what if they have a camera?
But you gave back.
I know, but they're like, but you took it to begin with. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And they're like, yeah, you did. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And they're like, yes, you did. You can't come back here.
I absolutely love that your fear is keeping you from doing the right thing. Your fear of doing the wrong thing is literally keeping you from doing the right thing.
Because they'll know. And then you know what the worst, listen, let me tell you the worst part. I haven't even read the book. I didn't read it. Because I'm so guilty every time I look at it that I'm like,
oh my God.
I don't even want to mark it as read on Goodreads when I read it, because then I'm like, it's going to be a reminder and I'll know that's the year I finished the book I stole from the library.
Do you think the library follows you on Goodreads and they might?
My library, the Sacramento follows me on my Instagram. So they could see my book.
Cassie.
What if I post a bookshelf and they're like, that's a book? They see the tag in the Sacramento library and they're like, that's the book. We've been missing that book for like 2 years.
Cassie, I don't want to freak you out.
Oh God, it's too late.
But hold on. We're doing this thing right now called a podcast that's going to go out into the world. What if the library is listening?
Actually, I was just thinking that. I was like, oh my God, what if the Cedar Park Middle School librarian is listening from like 20 years ago? And they're like, I knew that bitch stole that book.
Okay, for fuck's sake. Ladies, there's such a thing called the statute of limitations, first of all.
Yeah, but karma from the library is forever, Cooper.
It is. From the middle school library that I still live in the same city of. They can come knock on my door.
Wow.
They're like, we want our copy of Chain Letter 2 back.
Oh,
we listened to the episode. We know everything.
I stripped this book too. I was terrified my parents were going to know I stole a library book because we would come in my room every day. And so I took out the little card part. I took it out and then I stripped all the stuff on the front that had the indication, the fiction, PIC or whatever. It's all gone. It's only on the inside of the book. But I was like, then my parents would never know.
Oh my.
But they did ask me. I remember them asking me oh, the library said that you have a book still. And I was like, I do not.
I returned all of those.
Looked at my bookshelf. I think I hid this under my bed for a year.
Wow.
I was determined to take this book. It was mine.
I love how much guilt we have. Meanwhile, Cooper's like, yeah, I've stolen a bunch of books from the library.
Yeah,
I've gotten like 3 or 4 on my shelves right now as we speak. I'm staring right at them.
I know exactly where they are. One of them is signed by the author.
Oh my god!
I wish this was signed by the author.
I will formally say I stole John Waters' Shock Treatment first edition, and it is now signed by him, and he is aware that I stole it from the library.
Oh, he signed it after you stole it from the library.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is so funny. I thought you found one at the
plea.
library that he signed.
No.
That would be amazing.
No, that is just begging to get stolen.
Yeah.
Just begging for it.
So this is my plea for Christopher Pike to come sign my book. My library book.
I mean, after this podcast, maybe not. But if we just reached out, I bet we could.
He's going to listen to both the ones that I've been on, and he's like, no. Not her.
When we were talking about the writer and like him writing as the writer, and he's just going to be like, wait a minute. You guys are rude.
Yeah.
She sucks is what he's probably thinking.
No. We've clarified many times that we love him, I think.
Do.
So it's,
I love him so much. Like, that's why I'm like, this book was totally worth stealing. It's a good story, 1. And 2, it's one of the rare books that's better than the original, because I tried to read the original and it was not happening. I love the meanness of this one. I will say Tony sucks, but this book is mean.
It is, yeah.
And so while we're talking about it, how many pikes are you giving it?
I would give it 3 pikes. I know that I gave Master Murder 5.
Okay.
But this is a 3.
This is a 3 for you. Okay. Cassie, where are you at?
I think I will give it 4 pikes and Brenda's severed finger. That was who? That was Brenda, right?
That was Brenda.
I love that.
Okay, yeah.
Severed
Brenda's
finger.
severed finger. And so I think this is like I hate Tony. Honestly, I want to remove the reason it's not 5 or 4.5 is because I removed that. So even though it's like 4, the finger is still part of the 4. It's not above a 4 because of Tony.
That's good to know.
Yeah, because Tony sucks so much. Yeah, but everything else, there's so much other stuff in this that's so solidly piked to me and that I do like, especially like the villain being such like a badass like girl. That's such a sugar sister type like trope in his books that I really enjoy. So I give it stars for that, and also because it's pretty gross. Like there are some gross moments.
Like Joan.
Yeah. Well, yeah, gorgeously gross.
Gorgeously gross.
Yeah. Yeah. And I again, like we've talked about the things that there are people that I wish didn't die, people that I wish did die, but overall, I think it's a good sequel, and I think this is again one of those cases where a sequel is better than the first one, and that always I'm going to give everything like it gets a lot of stars for me for that.
Totally get that. So I'm going with 3. Now next to it is a stomped flat worm caretaker. But because it's been stomped flat, it's only a 3. So not extra.
I think like 3 to 4 is it's a very good gateway pike too.
Yeah.
Even though it's a sequel. I feel like it describes exactly what he's going for, even though it's a little bit messy.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you care a lot less about messy when you're 14, 13 reading these books.
12.
So, well,
yeah. I was like, yeah.
10, 11,
like,
all those ages.
Kind of mortified for my 12-year-old self that I was just like, yeah, this book. Uh-huh. And then I remember reading Weekend after it and going, it's not hard enough.
Well, yeah, because
Weekend's
enough. Point.
Yeah, I was so upset. I was just like, it's not the same. Not the same vibe.
Well, thank you.
I was fucked up.
Thank you, Jenny, for coming back.
Yes,
to talk
thank you.
about
Thank
this.
you for rescheduling and putting up with us and showing up.
We really appreciate it, and we've had a good time talking about this one.
I love this podcast so much. It actually has convinced me to read some of the ones on my bookshelf that I never got around to read, so I can listen to the episodes.
Yes,
I love it.
do it. Let us know if there are any that you end up loving.
Yeah.
I will. I do need to find Midnight Club, though.
Well,
because that's like one of the ones that have always evaded me.
Where can our listeners find more of you online?
You can find me pretty much on any social media platform through Jenny Lee X33. That's JennyLeigh X33. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter.
All right.
I'm on TikTok. Yeah.
Fancy.
Fancy, yes, indeed.
Becca's also on TikTok, and I'm just impressed every time she
She
talks
is.
about it.
She does so good. I love seeing her videos. I don't use TikTok a lot, but I see them when she shares them on like Twitter or on Instagram, and I'm like, oh look, Becca's videos.
It's been a hot minute since I've posted, but I do sometimes, and I usually post movie-related content, which is very on brand.
Yes. Cassie, where can we find more of you online?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at ControlAltCassie, CTRLALTCassie. And then you can also find stuff in my art shop. I sell stickers, books, and I just released the pre-orders for my illustrated children's book, Rosie Paints with Ghosts. And the link is shopletsgetgalactic.com.
Awesome. I can't wait to see that book.
Oh my God, my friend's going to have a baby, and I'm going to get them that book now.
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
It looks awesome.
If you get it, no pressure. You do not have to get it, just so we're clear, and you can cut this out, Cooper. But if anybody buys it and they want me to write like a person, like a child's name or something in it, I can do that. Just let me know in the notes.
Awesome. You can find me at Cooper S. Beckett and Beckett Arts on all the major social medias except for TikTok, because I don't understand it. I tried, but I'm 42, so I think it may be beyond me.
It's hard.
I tried.
There are some elderly people on TikTok, man.
Yeah,
They
Not
have a
that
following.
42 is elderly.
I'm not elderly.
I mean, I'm talking about people in their 80s.
Okay.
So
No, yeah,
people in
there
their
are.
80s could
Okay.
be doing it. I feel like
There are some fashionable grandmothers
Well,
on
there's
there.
also way too many social media sites to keep up with.
That's
And
fair.
they
That is
all
fair.
require different things of you.
Yes,
It's-
and they're
They really
constantly
do.
changing.
So I can only do so much. So I downloaded TikTok, I tried it, and then I said, you know what, this is just, I don't care enough to learn this one.
Fair enough.
It's a fun time waster if you're just like hanging out and like scrolling through videos and stuff. I always I learn random stuff, or like I get random movie and book recommendations, but I don't.
Oh yeah,
scroll
Book
through my own
Talk is
stuff.
great.
Yeah.
I find a lot of stuff through it.
The closest I get with TikTok is when people post it on Reddit.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
then I know it at least is relating to something I care about.
See, but so that's another thing though, is because you spend probably then a lot of time on Reddit. Meanwhile, I just go to Reddit and I'm like, hey, where's this code for this Animal Crossing pattern? Like, or like I'm like Instacart shoppers Reddit who's complaining about something today. Like very specific instances. Like I don't browse things at all. So it's different. It's cool how people use different things differently and more so than the others. Well, it's cool to me. I guess it's probably not cool to other people.
We need to wrap this show up here. Cassie, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find more about our show online?
You can find us on all social media except for TikTok.
We should get Becca on the PikeCast
We should.
TikTok.
We're gonna beg Becca.
Yeah.
Saying beg and Becca together, it's a
Beg
mouthful.
Becca.
Like it's hard. Beg Becca.
Horror.
Yeah, sorry. Horror. Beg Becca. Becca's gonna listen to this episode and be like, "What the fuck, guys?"
It's like, I'm glad I wasn't on this one.
Yeah. Okay. You can find us on social media at the PikeCast. We're also on Goodreads. We have a reading group. We'd really love you to chip in and talk to us about the books that we're reading. And we have a Patreon, and that helps us do things like transcribe episodes, keep things going, and we can share things with you like early episodes, stickers, bookmarks, and access to our special Discord channel, which is really fun. We talk about lots of stuff, not just books. So come hang out with us.
And your homework for next time, Pikers, is what I've now determined may be the first Pike book ever, Weekend. Because there was some confusion over what the first Pike book was, but we think it's Weekend. So check that out for next time. And until then, pleasant dreams.
Woo!
Wow.
You survived the night, friends. You can peek out from under your covers and see the first blues of dawn out the window. Thanks for spending the night with the PikeCast, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Until then, Pikers, pleasant dreams.